From service to strength, from questions to choice, guidance you trust, her vet voice.
Hello, YouTube. How are you? Happy Sunday. I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you for joining. We are back here again for another committee hearing. It's been a Sunday, but I'm here live and in color. Thank you guys for joining. There is so much happening behind the scenes that us veterans are not paying close attention to, and things are literally slipping through the cracks, and we have no idea of what is actually happening. So I decided to create this space so not only for women veterans, but for veterans in general to understand what is happening, because I know sometimes it can get so much more complicated and so political, and I'm not into politics, guys, so don't hold me to that. But I want to be able to explain to you guys exactly what's happening word for word and to guide you. So let's see who's here. And then we are going to get into it, because this is quite a lengthy committee hearing. I want you guys to take notes. I want you guys to put the numbers down. I want you guys to pay close attention. If you haven't seen earlier, I posted a couple videos, one about the DBQ fraud and what the committee wants compared to what the VA is saying. And two, I talked a little bit about Oracle and the EHRM contract that the VA has decided to go forth with on a yearly basis instead of a 10-year span. So let's see who's here. Hey, Mr. Ray, thank you so much for joining. Hey, Takea, thank you very much. The real Miss K, how are you? Thank you so much for being a devoted supporter. 66 as always. Thank you so much for your kind words, your dedication to being here with me. Delina Star, thank you very much. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I think the Mad Researcher was here earlier, so I'm not sure if he's here, but thank you guys for joining. You guys know I don't do a lot of talking because these committee hearings are pretty lengthy, and I promise y'all, I'm gonna try not to get worked up tonight. This is a hearing that I'm not sure if you guys, oh, you're here, the Mad Researcher. Thank you so much. So this is a hearing. I don't know if you guys have paid attention to the community care guidelines that was getting ready to take place, and the amount of money that they were asking for compared to the amount of money that they have already spent with community care, and what measures they were going to take. Okay, there are two hearings that I want us to focus on. We might not be able to get through both of them today, but I want you guys to see what's happening when it comes to the monetary aspect of things. And yeah, the second part of Pastor Dougie. Actually, this live is not the one where Pastor Dougie is in it himself, but the one that I'm going to play, the second part, is going to be Pastor Dougie. He's going to get real uptight and real upset because of the questions that they're asking. So let's get into it here. And y'all, I am new to this YouTube thing, so if I get frozen or I'm not in the picture, please charge it to my head and not my heart, because I don't be knowing half the time what's going on. Okay, I just know that I want to bring you guys the information, and it just be a whole lot. So let me share my screen. Let me take myself out of here so I can share my screen and you guys can see what is happening. Yeah, the second part of Pastor Dougie, from service to strength. Yes, absolutely. When I thought about guys, let me tell you guys something about her vet voice. I thought about exactly what I wanted this space to be, what wording I wanted to use, because I want veterans to know that just because that you're no longer in the service does not mean that you're not a person, you're not remembered, you're deserving, you're honored, you are everything and more. So I created this space because I want you to know you're going from service to your strength, and the strength that you have is going to be able to pull other veterans up to let them know that they are more than capable and they can do it just as you are doing it, right? So that's why I created this space. So let's get into the committee hearing. And let's go. All right, let's hit go.
Without objection, the chair may declare a recess at any time. We are expecting votes about 10:30, so odds are we will have to do that. Before I proceed, I'd like to clarify the purpose of this hearing. Article 1 of the Constitution grants Congress the authority over financial matters and the powers to create law governing the executive branch and the responsibilities to oversee the executive execution of those laws. The committee is neither a stakeholder in this contract, a bidder, nor a regulator. We are the constitutional body responsible for authorizing, funding, and overseeing the Department of Veterans Affairs. Our duty does not diminish simply because a contract is large, complex, or currently active. I also want to raise the issue of timelines and timeliness with the testimony for today's hearing. This is the second time this week that we have not received the testimony from VA in a timely manner. It is incredibly frustrating for staff and members to try to prepare for a hearing without having testimony to review prior to the hearing. If this were not such an incredibly important hearing, I would consider preventing VA from testifying today. However, given the importance of this hearing and the need for this committee to conduct critical oversight over this contract, I plan to proceed for the hearing, but rest assured that I will not be forgiving in the future. Now, I want to thank Mr. Richard Topping for being here today. Mr. Topping is a VA Assistant Secretary for Management and Chief Financial Officer. Before he was Chief Legal Officer for CareSource, which is a Medicaid management care organization. He was also president of CareSource Military and Veterans, which is a piloting competitive health plan for TRICARE. More importantly, Mr. Topping is also a veteran, an Army veteran, but we'll have to excuse him for that. This is a whole jarhead thing, I can't help it. I believe the background makes him a good fit to lead the Trump administration's effort to manage VA's community care next generation contract. However, this contract is going to cost the American taxpayer an estimated $1 trillion.
You hear that?
I want to make sure this money goes where it needs to go, improving health care access for veterans nationwide, no matter who at the VA is in charge. This hearing is the beginning of the conversation between VA and Congress to ensure this contract will maximize health care access and choice for veterans. The Community Care Next Generation Contract, or CCN Next Gen, is one of the largest government contracts in the nation's history. It is also a unique type of IDIQ contract being used to purchase health care. I'm sure that Mr. Topping will explain that in detail in his testimony. But long story short, this is a revolutionary idea. If done properly, this contract would allow unprecedented flexibility for VA to award contracts and task orders that would leverage competition for the benefit of our veterans. It is an ambitious idea. If it works, it may be one of the most important innovations in government-run healthcare programs. Unlike the first generation CCN Next Gen, would award multiple contracts at the outset. Rather than being stuck with just one contractor, this will allow different contractors to compete for new task orders. As I understand it, the idea that the VA would be able to leverage new ideas and innovation for the benefit of the veterans. This contract structure would also provide a way to off-ramp poor performing contractors. CCN Next Gen will also feature value-based care, or VBC, at a base requirement. VBC has long been an effective way for health systems to control cost while promoting quality care. It is a concept that is fully vetted and tested by Medicare, and it is long overdue in healthcare access for veterans in the communities where they live. I'm glad that we will be paying providers for the healthcare they deliver rather than the services they bill. Another new feature of this contract is utilization management, or UM. This is an important cost control tool, but it is also sometimes seen as a burden placed on providers and patients. One example of UM is the dreaded prior authorization. Now, without it, payers would have no way to stop unnecessary spending. But with it, some doctors have to move heaven and earth to get the right treatment for their patient. Needless to say, we're interested to know how VA plans to strike the proper balance that ensures veterans receive the care they need and deserve, while also preserving and maintaining programs' integrity. VBC and UM are only two of the many new features of the CCN Next Gen contract. I bring up these two because they are both rich in opportunity and in need of congressional oversight. Neither of these are new concepts in American healthcare, but they are new to the VA. Now, I want to know how well VA is preparing to implement these features in the community care program. Having Mr. Topping at the helm does give me confidence, but
I think you're new here. I think you are new here. So I would like you to at least say hello, be kind to each other, and don't be demanding, okay? Say hi to everybody, be respectful, and maybe we will take the time out to address how the secretary is screwing vets out of many secondaries. But in the meantime, I would like you to be kind, okay? And not be demanding. Have a good Sunday, okay? Thank you.
as a great man once said, trust but verify. I want assurance backed with details and explanations that VA will make every effort to ensure that the real world execution matches the vision. I need to know that VA will innovate where necessary and lean on existing resources and expertise. For instance, the Department of War is constantly managing complex contracts, and the Department of Health and Human Services has whole divisions dedicated to payment policies. There will be new ground that VA must break, and let's not reinvent the wheel. Mr. Topping, we are all eager to hear how you will bring this together for the millions of veterans in VA services. We are eager to hear what your team has been working on, from the CFO and all the way down to the contracting officer. And also, we are eager to hear in details how you will implement such a complex system and bring veterans care into the next generation.
Thank you.
As I understand it, there are some topics that VA will choose not to get into. Now, I understand the VA finds it unprecedented to hold a hearing on an active contract solicitation. I appreciate the sensitivity of the contract, but it is also unprecedented to avoid Congress's oversight of $1 trillion of spending. My staff and the ranking member staff have been told that some topics are off limits because of the sensitive nature of the contract and solicitations. We've tried to create a venue in which VA would feel comfortable to speak candidly to our members, but unfortunately, VA failed to assure us of such candor. As such, we are not able to close portions of this hearing for more candid conversation. I would also like to thank the ranking member Takano and his staff for working with us to exercise this oversight. Mr. Takano, I assure you this hearing is only the beginning of congressional oversight. Community care is an extension of VA care. It should go without saying that VA must get this right. When veterans call my committee, they want to know how they can access their earned health benefits at VA. They don't ask contracts what VA is used to provide the care, but that's the core of the Next Generation contract and why we must have this hearing. We must deliver modern healthcare access and choice to our veterans without running around or red tape. Veterans have been enrolled in VA at unprecedented rates in every part of this country. Community care is the only way that VA can keep up with this mission. It is the best way we have to get health care to the veterans with the right treatment at the right time at the right place. If we don't do our due diligence to maintain and improve community care, we dishonor the memory of the countless veterans who have lingered on secret wait lists at the VA medical centers without receiving the care they earned. Let me say that again. We must get this right. Before turning to the ranking member, I would also like to take a moment to thank Representative Brownlee for her years of service to this committee. You've done amazing work on health subcommittee relating to suicide prevention and also improving services for women veterans. And I want to say how much thankful we are. And so thank you. I know you have the rest of the session, but I hope you enjoy retirement and that life is better on the outside for you in the future. Yeah. So, and with that, ranking member, I'll now recognize you for your opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you mentioned here, the very beginning of your opening comments, you referred to the untimeliness of the testimony from VA that was due at 10 a.m. on Tuesday.
Watch this, y'all.
We did not receive the testimony until 6 p.m. last night. I advise the VA witnesses to review on YouTube, and I'll have my staff look it up and send it to you, the reaction of the Republican chairman of the Judiciary Committee from the state of Wisconsin, James Sensenbrenner's reaction when testimony arrived late. He canceled the hearing. We're reviewing a contract of enormous proportions, historic proportions. And you gave our committee staff way less time than they were owed under the under our committee rules. And if I were its chair, I would have postponed the hearing because we need to review your testimony and prepare the questions for this committee. It is inexcusable. This should never happen again. And I want to reiterate that. It will not happen again, or I will lodge an even larger protest for the chairman. This is disrespect to Congress. And in my opinion, we're showing way too much deference to the administration in this case. We represent the American people, and this is a near $1 trillion contract. Enormous disrespect. Get your testimony here on time, especially when we're reviewing $1 trillion. Thank you, Chairman Boss, for yielding. And as I said, nearly $1 trillion. I must admit, I'm a bit taken aback hearing our Republican colleagues speak positively about the government spending such a large sum. Although, in the chairman's words, he showed some concern, actually a great deal of concern about the amount of money that we're talking about spending here. To put it in perspective, the $700 billion ceiling on this contract for VA community care is equivalent to what President Trump offered Denmark to purchase Greenland. And just as I believe the president is unnecessarily agitating our most important allies, I fear VA's plans for community care network next generation contract will put the agency on an unsustainable course, barreling toward privatization, hollowing out direct care. And I believe as my colleagues will go through the questioning, we're going to look at what appears to be an unsustainable trend in the increase in spending in the community care accounts. I'm willing to pay any price for veterans to receive every benefit they deserve, including access to high-quality health care. When we passed the largest expansion of veterans benefits in history, the PACT Act, we knew more veterans would use VA services and that we would need to invest in VA to pay for the costs of war. VA is the best place for veterans to receive care. Throughout the chaos of the last year, my Democratic colleagues and I have loudly voiced our concerns about VA's future. VA's future is dependent on its people, and VA is understaffed. VA is understaffed. If we walked into any VA facility in the country right now, I guarantee that the director would tell us their number one concern is understaffing. So it is difficult for me to sit here and discuss this enormous contract for community care, which is one of the, if not the largest procurement in VA's history, when we have not seen this administration make similar investments in VA direct care itself. Instead, every headline we read, every whistleblower email we receive, every veteran perspective shared at our town halls is about cuts and how those cuts are impacting veterans' ability to receive the VA care they know, love, and rely on. Secretary Collins proudly carried out the performative OMB decree to illegally terminate probationary employees, only to be ordered by the courts to reinstate them. He oversaw and encouraged the departure of nearly 40,000 employees last year, including thousands who vacated frontline veteran-facing positions. And now we are anticipating the impact of his directive to cut nearly 30,000 positions from VA's roles. There have been no hiring incentives, no investments in VA itself under Secretary Collins, only cuts. Yet today, VA comes before us with a grand vision to continue to grow community care. VA has tripled how much it spends annually on community care since 2018. This RFP, valued at nearly $1 trillion over 10 years, would continue the exponential, out of control, unsustainable growth of community care. And you wonder why I'm ticked off that you come here and bring your testimony, submit it 6 p.m. last night. Now, we have here behind me a poster. According to VA's own data, the number of individual veterans using community care increased by only 34% between 2021 and 2024. However, during that same period, expenditures for community care grew a whopping 67%, from $19.7 billion in 2021 to $32.9 billion in 2024. This far outpaces the growth of healthcare costs for civilians. Also,
Y'all see, are y'all looking at the numbers? Hey, Benny, are y'all looking right here? Y'all looking like right here, 19.7 billion to 32.9 billion. And has community care gotten any better? No, because the VA don't want to pay them the amount of money that they should. So community care has gotten worse, and now they want more money. They want more money, okay? If you just listen to the last budget, legislative budget that they had on April 29th, you know how much money they want? $488.2 billion, which is $34.9 million more. Have you received care that costs that much, that's better? Absolutely not. This is wild.
Receiving care in the private sector. And civilians also know that the cost of healthcare rises faster than regular inflation. So VA healthcare is growing faster than civilian healthcare. We should all be asking ourselves why. Why did the cost of community care so drastically outpace the number of veterans using it? And what controls is VA putting in place in the next generation of this contract to contain those costs? Sadly, I fear the answer to that question will disappoint us. If we divide the $700 billion ceiling for the contract over its 10-year span, that leaves us with VA averaging about $70 billion in annual spend on community care going forward, which is over double what VA is spending today. And again, what is the justification for this rapid growth? VA's testimony today will claim that it is implementing a cost containment framework it expects to reduce community care spending by $54 billion over the next decade. And even if that speculative cost savings pans out, this RFP still estimates VA will spend $30 billion more a year over the course of the new contract than it is spending now. I'm sorry, this is not cost containment, it's cost explosion. While this RFP is lengthy and dense, it provides little detail as to how the new structure will address the issue I believe is most important when we evaluate community care, and that is the quality of care veterans receive outside of VA. The patient experience is tantamount, and I fear this RFP does not adequately address persistent issues veterans face when receiving care in the community. When asked how VA will oversee contracts of this magnitude, Mr. Topping indicated that VA may procure contractors to perform that oversight. Procure contractors to perform that. So we're going to get contractors to oversee a contract. This is a recipe for disaster. Oversight of contracts is an inherently governmental function. And outsourcing that function to the private sector will leave this behemoth of an acquisition vulnerable to waste, fraud, and abuse. VA has historically struggled with contract oversight due to lack of staffing. In 2024, VA had only half the staff it said it needed to oversee community care contracts. We have no reason to believe that VA staffing levels have improved considering the mass departure of employees, experienced employees. Last year, through the deferred resignation program, voluntary early retirement, and natural attrition coupled with the consequences of government-wide hiring. In addition to leaving the contractors to oversee themselves, this RFP leaves open the door for the insurance companies we expect to bid to enrich themselves beyond the cost of the contract. Insurance companies have been on acquisition sprees, vertically integrating and buying up hospitals, clinics, pharmacies, and other parts of the healthcare supply chain across the country. This trend towards consolidation is increasing care costs and diminishing patient access. Now, what does this mean for veterans? It means that when veterans need care in the community, they are going to have fewer choices. Perhaps an insurance company that wins a CCN NextGen contract chooses to create a network of providers whose practices that the insurance company owns. Nothing in this RFP prevents that from happening. I fear this RFP does nothing to guard against the issues VA experienced with the current third-party administrators who won the contract during Donald Trump's first term. The third-party administrators failed to coordinate network adequacy with the 172 VA medical centers nationwide. And as a consequence, we have networks that are not reflective of demand, and wait times for community care often exceed those of VA. Let me repeat that. Community care often, the wait times for community care often exceeds those of VA because of the insufficient contract that was approved during the first Donald Trump administration. We have heard complaints that there are providers who are currently considered in-network for the CCN who are not actually accepting veteran patients. The current third-party administrators only grew the provider network by 7,000 providers between 2021 and 2024. That's a paltry 4% growth in the supposed quote-unquote choice veterans are promised for care in the community. Additionally, nothing in this RFP requires the contractors to build a network of providers who have the same level of training as VA providers, including on veteran cultural competence. We had no way to ensure that veterans were going to see a culturally competent provider in the community because there was no way to ensure that those community providers would undergo that level of training or certification. This will invariably lead to worse patient outcomes and a negative experience for many of the veterans who have complex medical needs directly related to their military experience. Chairman Boss, I hope that we can work together to develop a robust oversight plan, and I'm glad to hear that this is the first of hearings that we expect to have regarding oversight of community care. we need to work together to develop a robust oversight plan with a regular cadence of required briefings and hearings with the VA as this contract is executed, and hopefully with testimony that arrives on time. We must chart a path forward that adequately balances investments in VA care and community care. We were given little opportunity to prepare for this procurement, as VA posted this RFP in December with absolutely no heads up to Congress. My staff repeatedly asked VA for briefings on plans for the CCN Next Gen contract through 2025, but those requests were never fulfilled.
Wow.
We were ignored. And I'm offended. But those requests were never fulfilled. We, the members of this committee, who have a constitutional oversight responsibility with VA, found out about a nearly $1 trillion contract competition at the same time as the general public. This is unacceptable. We did not receive testimony for today's hearing, as I said, until 6 p.m. last night, giving us little opportunity to review it prior to this hearing. VA has done nothing leading up to this hearing to inspire confidence or trust in this process. In closing, like signing a bad mortgage contract or opening a credit card without reading the fine print, rushing into this huge taxpayer investment is a recipe for financial disaster. The contract terms alone lock VA into a long-term commitment with very little certainty about whether this contract will improve veterans' access or outcomes. When confronted with a deal that sounds too good to be true, it's important to take a step back and not jump headfirst into a rushed, untested, costly proposal. Until we see a plan that reinvests in VA direct care, not just private contractors, and until oversight is restored, this process cannot earn the trust of this committee or the veterans we serve. With that, I'll yield back.
I thank the ranking member for his opening statement and yielding back. Ladies and gentlemen, a vote has been called in the House. The committee will stand in recess subject to the call of the chair. It is my intent that we expect to be back 10 minutes after the final vote. And at that, we are in recess.
All right, y'all, I got the fast forward because this is when it gets real. I think it goes to an hour and 19 minutes. And here
You are now recognized for 5.
Here goes Pastor Dougie's best friend. And Pastor Dougie's best friend is about to give us live camera action, because he gonna take up for Pastor Dougie every single step of the way. So let's go.
Minutes to present your opening statement.
Mr. Chairman, thanks for having me. Thanks for having us on this very busy day in the Congress. And certainly I hear you on the delay on the testimony getting to you all last night. In my short time at VA, I've found it's actually easier to fix CCN than it is to get testimony approved through the process. So I own the delay, and we'll do a better time next time, sir.
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Chairman. Is it customary that we swear in the witnesses?
It is. If the witnesses will rise,
Mr. Tanko said y'all gonna be on oath.
raise your right hand, please.
Calling a lie.
Do you say, I don't have the script in front of me. You got it? I think I can do it off the cuff, but let's do it anyway.
All right, let's get to the show because I ain't got time.
Office of Integrated Veteran Care, VHA. VA has long been recognized for the world-class care we provide to veterans across our more than 1,500 medical facilities. In addition to the direct care system, VA has also been a purchaser of healthcare since before the World War II era. As a healthcare payer, VA partners with local hospitals, doctors, and other healthcare providers to ensure that veterans have access to the care they need,
The man
where
behind
and
him,
when
y'all.
they need it. Caring for veterans is about more than operating hospitals. It's about supporting veterans' physical and mental health and wellness, their families, caregivers, and leveraging community services beyond the walls of our facilities. Recognizing the key role that purchase care plays in VA's ability to provide for veterans' health and wellness, President Trump and Congress passed the Bipartisan Mission Act, which expanded access and choice for veterans and reinforced veterans' mission as both a healthcare provider and payer. Today, VA is the largest single healthcare provider through our hospitals and our clinics, our 1,700 sites of care, and the fourth largest healthcare payer. In fiscal year 25, 41.8% of all VA healthcare appointments were in the community. NextGen is VA's first major procurement effort to support this program. It's our opportunity to increase competition, upgrade and modernize the provider network, enhance services to ensure that veterans receive the very best healthcare possible, whether they are at a VA facility or in their community from a local healthcare provider. We did not design NextGen alone. We talked to our veterans, who overwhelmingly want the flexibility to choose between direct care and community care based on medical interest, availability, and convenience. We talk to our government partners. The Departments of Health and Human Services and of War have decades of experience and data on improving healthcare quality, reducing costs, and aligning incentives for better health and wellness. And we talk to industry, which is constantly innovating with new delivery models, leveraging data analytics, striving to be consumer-oriented while tackling costs that remain too high. Combining VA's history, the data, this external input, VA successfully issued the CCN NextGen request for proposals on December 15th, 2025. We are leading the nation with an innovative 10-year, multiple award, delivering indefinite quantity contract vehicle, which has several key advantages over traditional federal healthcare contracts. First, the IDIQ drives and delivers competition and flexibility by allowing both national and regional health plans to successfully bid and be awarded a spot on the IDIQ. This is the best of both worlds. We will have vendors with national reach and efficiencies of scale, but also regional health plans with unique capabilities that are locally adaptable to serve our veterans. And second, through the use of multiple rounds of task orders, this allows VA to iteratively adapt NextGen to meet veterans' changing needs over time, changing demographics and infrastructure, and to improve VA's sophistication to manage the program over the 10-year performance period of the contract. The IDIQ is the how of this procurement. But the most exciting part of CCN NextGen is the what. NextGen is designed on 5 pillars: quality, value, alternative payments, utilization management, and program integrity. VA will implement a comprehensive quality program for community care providers based on nationally recognized measures for the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality and the Healthcare Effectiveness Data and Information Set. Contractors will track patient safety events, identify veterans at risk of avoidable visits and readmissions through predictive analytics, and while respecting their choice, guide veterans towards higher-performing providers. NextGen will modernize how VA pays its contractors for the care furnished to veterans by implementing value-based payment models. We will begin with episode-based payments for lower extremity joint replacements. As we gain the data and the expertise to manage alternative payments, we will introduce at least 3 additional models over the performance period of the contract to continually improve care. These models will shift payment away from volume and toward outcomes and total cost of care, which aligns contractor incentives with veterans' health and system sustainability. We will introduce utilization management. This includes active management of inpatient admissions, emergency department use, concurrent hospital reviews, high-cost drugs administered in clinical settings. This will reduce unnecessary hospitalizations and inappropriate care while protecting veterans' access to medically necessary services. NextGen will include a program integrity function to ensure that VA resources are protected and maximized. We will identify providers at high risk of improper billing, formalize oversight processes, expand data and technology for improper payment detection, use independent audits, and ensure veterans receive what VA is paying for. NextGen also changes how VA pays our contractors to incentivize performance and outcomes. NextGen will incorporate incentives and disincentives based on the total cost of care, quality performance, value-based adoption, and payment integrity. Ultimately, contractors who achieve VA's quality targets while reducing our costs will share in the value that they create for VA and our veterans. And speaking of costs, along with our improved care for veterans, NextGen provides real savings for taxpayers. NextGen's actuarial estimates, based on independently verifiable data, show significant savings of 8 to 14% over the life of the contract. These savings range from a low-end estimate of $54 billion to a high end of $100 billion over the life of the contract. These savings are gained by fewer unnecessary hospitalizations, improved management of high-cost services and drugs, improved quality, and stronger fraud prevention and payment controls. Mr. Chairman, NextGen is leading the way in how federal healthcare programs can be designed, procured, and operated. I appreciate the opportunity to share this information with you and the committee and look forward to answering any questions you may have.
We're going to now go to questions. I'll recognize myself for 5 minutes. Mr. Topping, the community ambulance services have shared that there's no way to know when a patient is a veteran, and I would like to see if the NextGen addresses this for all providers with limited claim windows. How will VA help the community providers experience in a case where they do have a short claim window for filing? Is there a process by which that will be part of this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So first of all, the claim window is 6 months. And as you know, we've got proposed legislation in the Access Act that would expand that to 12 months, which would match how Medicare does this. So there is a window in which a provider who provides this service can bill VA after they determine veteran status after the fact.
Now stop lying. How many of y'all go to community care and in a matter of time, y'all get a bill in the mail because the VA has not paid? Look at the man in the back. He alone says it's a lie. He's saying right now it's a whole lie. Okay? Because how many of you guys get harassed by different physicians' offices that the VA has not paid them? Okay? So he already started off with the foolishness.
A part of how we intend to design and manage this network and the capability to verify eligibility and enrollment, these will be addressed through this. So our ability for a provider, a network provider, an ambulance provider, an emergency service, to then be able to bill VA for the cost of that covered care, again, on the agreed payment schedule, absolutely. Those are the types of things we are tackling in this reprocurement, sir.
So what account will fund the CCN Next Gen?
CCN Next Gen, sir, has a direct appropriation. And one of the things that we are doing at VA is not just the purchase cost of care and accounting for that as a program cost, but also the administrative costs. So there are 3 costs that go to our inputs on community care. One is the administrative cost for the agency to administer it, our internal program management costs. We are organizing those direct to this program. Secondly is the cost that we then pay to our health plan partners and our vendors to manage this network. And the third are the purchase cost of care that the providers are paid who directly provide the service to the veterans.
Is it the intent or any anticipation that you will be using the toxic exposure funds resources for the community care?
Sir, we're going to maximize the resources available to us to ensure that the veterans get the care that they've earned, that they deserve, that they're eligible for under this program. And we intend to do so in a way that maximizes our efficiency, that we get the highest quality, lowest cost care, but we will reuse the resources that Congress has afforded to us to do so.
Okay, the Next Gen contract would include many features that are found in Medicare and other programs. How deep is your ongoing engagement with other agencies to help implement the new community care system?
So number one, this year, we partnered in a program where we are working with CMS on improper payments and overpayments. And so for the first time, VA has partnered with CMS on payment because we've got veterans who move between our systems and their systems. We have begun that work on how our systems collaborate and work together. Secondly, as VA builds out its program management capability, what we're talking about today is the program design of CCN Next Gen, but what comes next for VA is program management, our ability to operate this program. We're going to use the models that we see in other places in government. For example, the Center for Medicare, which provides a framework for how VA would manage and operate a program of this size. There are state models. We'll incorporate the best of both to bring in how VA is organized, how VA manages this, how we use, ingest, and action data for the outcomes that we are seeking in this program.
Yeah, my big fear would be that you wouldn't pay attention to mistakes that Medicare has made over the years and get on the right track right off the start and take advantage of someone that's already got a system in place.
Correct.
Absolutely. When we talk to CMS, and same deal when we talk to Department of War, our colleagues at the Defense Health Agency, is what were their lessons learned? What works, what hasn't? And the 5 pillars that we are introducing in this program are tried and true methods. These are tools that have been used in other programs, in some cases for decades. We are importing what we know works. We have looked at the lessons. Some have been good, some have not, and we have brought those in our program. This is a program that takes what has worked elsewhere. Again, we're the 4th largest payer program, but we are not the only. And HHS operates the top 3. We have looked at their successes, their failures, gotten their input, and we've done the same with industry. So we didn't just say, what is government's view on this? We went and talked to industry and said, you tell us how this has worked. You tell us where you've been successful, where you've been not. What have your pain points been? We've incorporated that and built that into this program design.
Well, I'm telling you, before I yield back, I want to let you know that we don't, this, as I said in my opening, this is just the first of many meetings. We need to keep you here on a regular basis, talking to this committee, so we can watch this process. We've had other things that VA has done they go off on their own and we don't get the oversight that we need. And so I want the commitment from you that we can do that.
Mr. Chairman, anytime you will have me to come back and talk about Next Gen, I will come.
Okay, thank you very much. I yield back and recognize ranking member for his 5 minutes.
And I'll expect prompt answers from my staff from you as well. I cannot have delays and I do not ever want to see a major program announced at the same time the public hears it.
No.
So do I have a commitment from you on that?
Yes, sir, you do.
Thank you. Community care spending is out of control across multiple administrations. I have raised concerns about how much spending is going into the community care account at the expense of direct VA provided care. Underscoring these concerns are VA's transfers so far this fiscal year of over $2 billion into the community care account. Mr. Topping, from what account did you transfer the $2 billion?
Listen, y'all, and then I'm gonna go to Pastor Ducky.
Ranking member, there have been no transfers this year.
You
in the
lying.
Community care account.
There have
Lying.
been no transfers? That's your answer?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. You stand by that? You're under oath.
Yes, sir. There have been no transfers this year. In FY26, there have been no transfers.
In FY25, we're talking about?
Yes, sir. In FY25, there were transfers.
What accounts, from what accounts were the $2 billion transferred?
As I recall, sir, I think it came from medical support and compliance. And there was a transfer of I forget the exact number, but I believe the transfer was 1.3, 1.4 billion into the account.
Can you make sure that you get us the accounts that money was transferred in FY25, the $2 billion?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. VA requested $48 billion in mandatory and discretionary funding for community care for fiscal year 2026. And that is what you received. As of now, will VA need to transfer more money into the community care account before the end of fiscal year 2026?
I'm sorry, sir. Was that a question as to whether we'll need to transfer?
What do you think it is?
As of right now, will VA need to transfer more money into the community care account before the end of this fiscal year of 2026?
Sir, as of right now, my financial cost estimates, along with my spending to date, again, understanding that there is both a data and a claim lag, but as of right now, no.
My time is short. Just answer the question.
Sir, as of right now, my data does not show that.
Okay, so the answer is no. You will not. You are telling me that you do not need to. That you're saying you have sufficient funding from your $48 billion FY 2026 appropriation, and you don't plan to ask for any more money. Is that right?
Representative, as of right now, my appropriation for FY26.
It's a simple question. Yes or no?
Sir, my appropriation is $50.174 billion, $206 million. That's the appropriation. And sir, that is the budget that I am managing to.
Well, I asked you about the $48 billion FY 2026 appropriation to the community care account. You don't plan to ask for any more money than that.
Sir, the number is $50,174,206.
All right, okay. Well, so you don't plan to ask for any more money for that account?
No, sir. At this time, my data does not show that I will need to do that. And no, I do not, sir.
Okay, well, Ms. Skolrud, contractors are required to self-report conflicts of interest, even though many insurers own clinics and provider networks. How will VA independently detect and prevent contractors from steering veterans to affiliated providers for profit?
Thank you very much for that question. Our TPAs do not steer our veterans to providers. Those decisions are made by the veterans.
Well, how will you know that? You just claim that our TPAs don't do that, but how is VA going to hold our TPAs accountable?
They don't have the opportunity to do that. That's not how a veteran gets to the community provider. The veteran gets to the community provider either by choice because they've selected them. Now, the network is built by the TPAs. That we control via our credentialing process, our accreditation process, and our assessment of the provider's quality.
So you're going to represent to me in this committee that every clinic, every provider, is not owned by the TPA.
I'm not representing that at all, sir.
Well, then how is it that you're able to answer my question in the way that you've answered it? How will VA independently detect and prevent contractors from steering veterans into affiliated providers for profit if you can't figure that out? You can't tell me that.
So Ranking Member, the way the system currently works, VA controls the clinical referral and VA controls the placement with the community provider. The TPA, the vendor, does not control the steerage, VA does. These are our
You're not
patients.
really answering my question. You're evading the question. You're avoiding the intent of my question. You're not able to answer how TPAs avoid this conflict of interest. You don't, you're not answering, you're not talking about any enforcement mechanisms beyond simply trusting contractors to disclose conflicts.
TPA.
I would suggest, sir, that's a huge flaw in the assumptions that you're bringing forward to us. My time is up. I yield back.
Representative Radwagen. Recognized for 5 minutes.
Okay, y'all, I want to pause this because
Thank
I want to go to Pastor Dougie so you guys can get an understanding of where I'm going at with this. Okay, so you see Mr. Toppin just now, and he goes to bat for everything about Pastor Dougie, right? He makes sure that he lends a hand in everything when it comes to Dougie, and he wants to
And let's see
be
if you seize the opportunity.
Dougie's right-hand man, right? So let's go into Dougie answering these questions again because they call him to the carpet, okay? They called Dougie to the carpet. Sorry if I was frozen. I was looking for it on the other side. So they called Dougie to the carpet. And so here is Dougie, okay? He had to come to the carpet to answer the questions because his good old boy over there was not doing the work, the good enough work. Okay, so watch how Dougie is about to get so mad at these people that
employee of over 14 years in the VA system. Before I start, though, I want to begin, as already been expressed, by expressing my deepest sympathies to the family and colleagues of a Minneapolis VA Medical Center nurse, Alex Peretti. As you know, his death is currently being investigated. VA is not involved in that investigation, and neither I nor
because I want you guys to get to the questions that they're going to ask Dougie.
In the order that they come in, the normal we do, 5 minutes. If you can keep it less than that, but I will gavel you down at 5 minutes because other members do need to ask questions. So I'll try to lead by example to get my questions out. And with that, I recognize myself for 5 minutes. Mr. Secretary, your team received a written legal opinion from the Office of General Counsel defining the Title 38, Section 510 applies to this reorganization. Will you provide that opinion to this committee?
I can provide what we have that backs that up, yes. And again, as I said in my opening statement, Mr. Chairman, every targeted requirement of 510B will be followed when those targets are met. At this point, they have not been met.
Well, that'll bring up my other part of this question, which was asked, if VA begins to implementation before Congress receives the detailed plan, how does VA ensure it is not effectively circumventing that statute?
Because I follow the law, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Secretary, I commend the department for proposing this reorganization to better the VHA with how care is going to be delivered. Do you agree that as a veteran needs health care delivery continues to change, VHA's structure will need to keep evolving as well?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it's got to evolve because what we have right now is not a system that actually works. We're a top-down system. I had this unbelievable conversation in the Senate 3 weeks ago that they believe that this plan was a top-down plan. You can't read this plan or hear about it and say it's top-down. We're putting our VAMC directors and our leaders on the field, Clinton directors, in charge. They're actually having to be senior leaders now. They've never had to be senior leaders before. They just put everything up and nothing ever got answered. Can I also, on that point, Greg Goins was a visiting director as well, hospital director. Real briefly, can you explain how this actually affects that, what we just talked about right there?
Yes, sir. So what Secretary Collins is referring to is our oversight structure and the bodies that ultimately support the field operations, the medical center directors and the staff that actually are delivering direct care has been created over the years to really be kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. We set up oversight requirements and then we hire a bunch of people to do it. And in reality, some of that stuff is important, much of it is, but we've created far too much resource intensity at the top, and we have taken away resources in doing so from the very front lines of being able to deliver care to our veterans. So as an example, in the VISN, oftentimes we have a compliance requirement, which is good, but there's also a similar compliance requirement in DC and a similar one at the facility level. Why do we need 3 people checking the exact same process? In fact, what should happen, like everywhere else, is we have an evaluation for self-inspection at the front line, and then we have someone removed from the process, typically at a VACO level, to do compliance. Right now, we have 3 or 4, in some cases, even parties doing that. That's an incredibly resource-intensive oversight that ultimately is not contributing to quality execution.
Mr. Secretary, I've got one more question. As a former member of Congress, do you support Congress's reauthorization and modernization of VA's statutory structure, including VHA and other major functions like construction, procurement, and research, so that the law reflects the needs of today's veterans?
Oh, Mr. Chairman, and I know that we have talked many times before, but you're singing out of my choir book hymnal here. We've got to have some of that reorganization help from this body. I can only do, and I promise this, we're only going to do what we statutorily can do. But look, when it gets to construction, I'm just going to hit construction. I've mentioned it before. This group, this committee needs to set aside some time to discuss this. For those of us who were here when we had to pass the construction issues about a dozen years ago, which I was, voting on this. This was out of the disastrous rebuilding Aurora, Colorado, Phoenix, Arizona, where the ballooning cost 10 years. I hate to tell you this, but you're not going to be shocked. After this passed, and we're going up on 10 years now, at least when we pass this, we're still looking at 10 years to build a VAMC. We're still looking at times it takes. There's in the budget, which you just approved, the St. Louis VAMC should be built in 2.5 years minimum. It's going to take almost 6 to 7 years under the current structure because, frankly, Corps of Engineers needs to be out of this process. They got other issues they need to deal with, but you had to put in structure at the time. I get it, but now we've got to change it. So anything structurally that I'll come back with you with that we need to change, I would appreciate it. We'll give you any help we can because, one, we're not being very good stewards of taxpayer dollars by building $1.6 billion VAMCs that could be built for $800 million in 2 years in the private sector.
I know you not talking about we not being good stewards with the money. Now, because the last 2 days, we done talked about billions of dollars and we don't see nothing on the table of it happening. Community care is poor. You're not hiring anybody to work in the VAs. Then you want your buddy friends to be in community care so they can make money for their large hospitals. So what are we doing here, Dougie? What are we doing here? What are we doing here?
Thank you. And by leading by example, I will yield back my time and recognize the ranking member. For
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, isn't it true that you, sir, created the widespread belief that VA is conducting massive employee cuts, what federal agencies call a reduction in force or RIF?
When I came before this committee last year, we were discussing an overall reduction in force across the government as a whole. At that point, as I told you in this committee, that our target would have been 83,000.
So
we ended up with about 30. You either want an answer.
Is that a yes or no?
I
It's
don't
a yes or no question.
I don't do yes nos, and you know that.
Well,
if you want an
Mr.
answer,
Secretary,
yes, no is not it.
Mr. Secretary, we're coming on my time. On March 4th, 2025, your former chief of staff, Christopher Sarek, put out a RIF memo saying that VA was initiating plans to cut 83,000 employees. And you yourself posted a video on X saying that, quote, our goal is to reduce VA employment, not employment across the government, but VA employment levels. That's pretty clear here and here.
Correct.
And after spending the last year pushing out thousands of employees, stifling hiring, and eliminating vacant positions that medical facilities will never recover, you are now asking us to suspend belief about the true nature of this so-called reorganization and to disregard what happens to thousands of VA employees and the workforce that cares for veterans. I'm not going to do that. Now, let's go on to priorities.
Call them
You went
out.
on to Fox and Friends and said that VA needs to do more with less. And I don't even know why you're talking about doing less, talking about less when it comes to veterans. Are you aware that ICE has been recruiting thousands of new employees and offering up to $50,000 in signing bonuses? Why isn't VA doing the same for nurses?
I'll be happy to let Mark talk about our.
Oh, why are your buck stops with you?
Yeah, the buck stops with me, but really, there's not a question in there. And I'm glad you watched.
That is the
Fox
question.
News. I
Why
appreciate
isn't
that.
VA doing the same for nurses?
We-
Why aren't
we-
you doing a signing bonus for nurses? We don't have enough
already
nurses.
have it.
We
Quit
already-
yelling.
We have
at
enough.
me.
Oh, we already have it. Okay. Yes, we did pass the RAISE Act. Are you here to ask us for more money for doctors, signing bonuses for doctors? Are you asking us for that?
I'm asking you to raise the cap. Will you commit right now to putting?
You want
a
us
bill
to
in
raise the cap? Are you
Will
asking for
commit
signing
to raising
bonuses?
the cap? Will you commit to raising
Okay,
the
so
cap?
your testimony,
No. Will you commit to raising the cap?
if you're asking us to,
Yes, I am.
are
I
you asking us to
asked
raise
a year
signing?
ago.
Okay, I'll be glad to author legislation to get you more money to hire more doctors.
Done. We're good.
Okay, so
We
you
found
don't,
agreement.
do we have enough doctors at VA?
Oh, we always can hire more doctors.
Do we have enough doctors at VA? Yes or
We can
no?
always hire more doctors.
So
Do
your
we need more
testimony,
doctors?
your
Yes.
testimony today is that VA is not fully staffed.
Who come up with that question? No, we're not fully staffed, and we haven't been for 50
Okay,
years.
so we need more people.
Yes, we
Okay.
hire every day. Do you realize how many
Okay,
we hire?
great. Let's move on.
Lots.
So,
I
Mr.
don't think
Secretary,
you understand that
so
we
Mr.
hire people
Secretary,
every week.
so
Whatever.
Alex, so Alex Preddy worked for you. I just want to know something. Alex Preddy worked for you.
Keep full of it.
Can you just tell me, was he a good employee?
Mm.
As far as I know everything about it, I've already said what I'm going to say about Alex Preddy, and I'm not going to be brought into anything else about it.
Well,
I'm
did
not
he do
going.
it-
I've provided you the reports that you've asked for. You make this.
Did
you make
did
it.
he do a good job caring for sick veterans in the VA ICU?
I've heard nothing to the contrary.
So you're saying he did,
I've heard nothing to the contrary.
Exactly. Exactly.
but you can't tell me as the head of the
I've
VA.
heard. I've answered your question. I'm not going to get pulled into. Do you
Okay,
want to talk
well,
about reorg?
then why don't you stand up for him and correct your cabinet colleagues when they call him an assassin and a terrorist?
Mm.
Because I am here today to talk about VHA reorg. I've expressed my condolences to the family. We have made every available
It seems
asset
to
for
me
ourselves.
you're unwilling to defend the reputation of a VA nurse who dedicated his career to
Correct.
veterans. Mr. Secretary,
That's your opinion.
when you're secretary, I just think it's not my opinion, it's what you just showed us.
No, it's your opinion.
When your employee, Alex Preddy, was attacked publicly and falsely by your own colleagues, you had a choice to defend him or stay silent. And you chose silence. And that silence is deafening. Leadership is who you defend when it costs you something. And you did not defend him when it mattered, and you still won't. Mr. Goins, you've been called the face of the VA reorganization, but you're the VHA Chief Operating Officer, not a Senate-confirmed official. Who among the four of you is the accountable official? Is it Mr.
Hold on
Bartram?
just a second. Define the question.
Well,
I mean, if we're going to get cute here, I'm the Senate confirmed. John's Senate confirmed. He doesn't have to be Senate confirmed because he's appointed out. And
I just
Greg-
want to know
Gentleman's time
who-
has
I just
expired.
want to know who we should hold accountable.
Gentleman's time
if
has
this
expired.
reorganization
We're
fails
going to
meet.
hold to the 5-minute.
You want to answer the
Representative Van Orton, you are recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you,
Y'all see how this
Mr.
got
Chairman.
raunchy.
The ranking member made a point to hold up a book. And as opposed to the slide deck that you have, I would just like to point something out.
Watch
The
this.
Magna Carta was 1 page. The Declaration of Independence was 1 page. The Constitution, 4 pages. The Bill of Rights, 1 page. So what I've noticed in the 3 years I've been in Congress is that we often confuse quantity with quality.
Mhm,
And we often confuse motion for progress.
mhm.
So I'd like to show people what we're talking about because it's been referred to.
Look at that.
This is the current structure,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
And what's great about this chart is you can look at it upside down and it still doesn't make any sense at all. It just doesn't matter, right?
This one
And
doesn't.
then, and if you look at this is what you're striving to get to, right? Okay, so I'd just like to, Mr. Chairman, I'd ask unanimous consent to enter this into the record.
Without objection.
Okay, so we're trying to go from here to there. This is the I Got 6 Bosses, Bob program. This is the I actually know who I work for and I can be held accountable program. Is that what you're striving for, sir?
That's correct, Ms. Van Orden. You hold that other one up right there for a second.
The first one or the
Yeah,
second one?
the first one you showed up.
Yeah, this is the one that looks like
Yeah,
the aftermath
this
of
is what's
Burning
been-
Man.
Yeah, this is what's been defended for almost 30 years by
Right.
they're saying, well, we just don't need to work on it. We'll work on it. We'll patch it. We'll patch it. We'll patch it. That's what you get when you patch it. It's
Correct.
time for us to go to something that actually works.
Right. So what we're trying to do here, and, please correct me if I'm wrong. I've been here, as I said, for 3 years, and I chair the subcommittee on equal opportunity, or economic opportunity. And I have yet to see anyone at the VA being held accountable for the billions and billions and billions of dollars wasted
Thank
for
you.
lack of planning and just
Thank
throwing money at a problem.
Thank
And
you.
so I think that if we can actually hold people accountable, that their job performance will improve. That's my experience as a Navy SEAL. Is that what you're trying to accomplish, sir?
Yeah, would you and I appreciate the question, and it goes to the heart of what I was trying to get at here. And if you allow me for just a second. Last year when I came in, I told the chairman, I told everybody on this committee that we didn't have a Manning document.
Gone violent.
And some of you have rightfully so been concerned about what was reported in the press wrongly about empty positions, and Mark Engelbaum will be happy to describe what we did to get our Manning document right. For by the way, who not sure what a Manning document is, we didn't know where our people were or where they're supposed to work. We now have a Manning document that allows us to actually hire in ways that we get more doctors and nurses where we're at, instead of trying to move them between different places. But then I got another one for you. And I shared this one just this week.
Yes.
Up until we were able to consolidate our CFO and get a CFO in and actually working through this, we had no monthly reconciliation. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on here. How do you run a business without having monthly reconciliation of what you're spending?
The same way you running it.
We just got
down,
to the end of the
filling out
year and said,
money.
wow, we got enough money, we're good. This is the kind of stuff that we're trying to deal with to get it to where we can actually put the people in the places that need to be, instead of just putting people. Here's your question. You said a minute ago, there's all this idea that the more is better.
Right.
Well, when I got here, we had 480,000 employees. We had 260,000 plus in a backlog. We had wait times that were going up. And by the way, for those who are concerned, the vacancy rate for doctors and nurses over the past 4 years has stayed consistently between 19 and 14%. By the way, the 19% was in 22 under Biden. We're at 14.
Here we
So we
go.
stayed consistent.
Here we go.
I
Here we go.
have a minute left.
No worries.
I do want to talk about the salary cap issue.
Yes.
I know that's statutory. That's something we can work on. And then you said something that's actually deeply disturbing, that the Army Corps of Engineers are responsible for building our VA facilities?
They are, because of a certain amount. It's a threshold amount that they have to be involved in. And that gets them involved actually in CBOX as well. So
Okay. Well,
they don't need to be there.
I have
Good folks, but they don't need to be
I
there.
have a great relationship with the Army Corps of Engineers, but they do think they're the fourth branch of government. And so if we can work together, Mr. Chairman, and with ranking member to see if we can move that around, that'd be great. Because again, the Veterans Affairs Administration, and you've stressed this in your leadership, it's about the veteran. It's not about the Veterans Affairs
Exactly.
Administration. So I greatly
Yeah.
appreciate your
Can
efforts.
I answer that real quick? Or you got another question?
No, I just have 14 seconds, so I don't want to have
Yeah,
to cut you off. Your,
No, let me finish it real quickly. The reason the Corps is a problematic, and there's something I didn't mention a minute ago. VA developed its own building standards. We don't use national building standards. We developed our own standards because we had
So it's everybody's fault except, okay? Do you realize the pattern here? It's Biden's fault. It's the previous administration fault. It's no structure. It's this. Do you take the blame for anything at all? That's all I'm asking. I'm asking. Do you take the blame for anything? Because you are perfect Charlie. Right now, you have made no mistakes. Everything you have done has been so great. You are the greatest of them all. Mr. Perfect Charlie. Because you ain't taking responsibility for Nathaniel since you have came into this job. And you have fucked it up the whole entire time. Pissing me off.
nothing better to do, I think. And then we take it to the Corps of Engineers who have their own
Time has
standards.
expired.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Talking you
Representative
think.
McGarvey, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being with us today. As you know, this committee's job is to make sure the VA is working for veterans. Not that it's working for political appointees, not that it's working for career employees, not that it's working for a small group of insiders who are making decisions behind closed doors. What you all are proposing, it's very likely the biggest shakeup of the VA in 30 years. And I think our veterans deserve to know what the VA is planning. Now, I want to tell you, I'm not opposed to change. I'm opposed to making that change in the dark. I'm not opposed to change, but I do want to make sure that that change actually improves the care our veterans receive. Because one thing we do well on this committee is we actually understand the mission. to take care of our veterans. We do it in a bipartisan way. For the nearly 40,000 veterans in my district, we're here to take care of them. For the veterans in Mr. Luttrell's district, in every representative's district on this dais, we are here to take care of them, to make sure that we honor the promise we made to them for their service. We might not always agree on the path, but we all want the exact same outcome, which is a stronger VA that delivers the highest quality of care for our veterans. So the experts who helped design the Veterans Integrated Service Network, or the VISNs as we're calling them, they've warned for 30 years that you don't fix policy failures or culture failures by redrawing an organizational chart. They've said that large reorganizations are disruptive, expensive, and almost never solve the real problems, which are unclear roles, inconsistent oversight, and a lack of accountability. Both GAO and GIO have been saying that same thing for more than a decade, as you alluded to earlier. So again, I want to point out, I am not opposed to change, but here's the problem you're hearing and the frustration you're getting from this committee. We don't know what those changes are. Mr. Secretary, the federal law requires a report to Congress on any proposed VHA reorganization. And what you've provided to us is a half-page letter and a 10-page slide deck, a PowerPoint. It's not much. So given how this committee operates, I hate that I'm even asking this question, but I do want the honest answer. Have you provided my Republican colleagues on the other side of this dais with any additional materials, documents, memos, reports, data about this reorganization that you have not shared with the people on our side of the dais?
Well, first off, Congressman, I will not never intentionally or any otherwise give you dishonest information. So an honest answer is all you're going to get from me. I've given nothing. We have briefed both sides of the dais on this multiple times and had multiple phone calls with us.
So that's then the problem. I mean, the problem is no matter how you answer that question, it wasn't going to be a great answer, because what we have is very little information on what's going on here. Again, it's not that we're opposed to change. We want the VHA to work. We know that it can work better for our veterans, but we need to know what those changes are. And when you are proposing a reorganization of this size and this scale, and our veterans don't know what's coming, that concerns me. Because our veterans, as you know, some of them are worried about these changes. Right now in Louisville, Kentucky, we're undergoing a change in our VA. Robley Rex serves about 45 veterans across the Commonwealth. We are moving to a new building. They're in the middle of this full facility move. And what worries me is that this reorganization adds yet another layer of disruption for the people who have risked everything to serve our country. So when talking about how we're ensuring that veterans continue to get the care and that it doesn't slip through the cracks during the transition, which you propose, and we don't know enough about, do you all have a continuity of care plan, yes or no?
We always have it. I want you to hear from Greg Goins, who is actually from your area, who actually was the VISN in that. He can describe exactly what we're talking about for you right now. And this is why we're doing this hearing.
Yeah, and only because I only have 1 minute and 9 seconds left. Do you guys have a continuity of care plan?
No,
And I need it to be yes or no.
no.
Yes, the plan,
Okay,
we do.
perfect.
The
So-
continuity of care plan is the fact that we're not touching frontline facilities whatsoever.
That's the big
Okay.
issue.
And the other thing I want to say about Louisville and the hospital, the biggest
I
issue
gotta
that's
cut you
running
off 'cause
into challenge
I got
is the
51
federal and
seconds
state
left.
level
I gotta
officials haven't
reclaim my
addressed the
time, Mr.
traffic
Chairman.
issue.
Y'all see the disrespect?
We got really little time. If you have a continuity of care plan, one of you said yes, one of you said no. What I need.
No. Let's make this.
Guys,
Mr.
I
Chairman,
reclaim-
stop
I
the clock.
reclaim my
Stop the
time,
clock
Mr.
and give him
Chairman. I
time.
reclaim my time,
I
Mr.
need to
Chairman.
make this clear. Stop the clock and give him his time. I said no
Mr.
to
Chairman,
yes.
I reclaim my time.
I said yes, no. I did not say no to the answer that he gave. I said no
Mr.
to
Chairman, I
yes,
got to
no
reclaim my
question.
time here.
You've already claimed your time.
And maybe even get a little extra time. This is, we're trying not to be combative, Mr. Secretary. And I heard, okay, perfect. But if you have a continuity of care plan, we haven't received it. This goes to the lack of transparency that we are talking about. This is a massive reorganization. It's going to impact our veterans, and we on this committee don't know how. What we care about is the veterans. We care about doing right by the veterans, and what doing the right thing is having this out in the open.
Gentleman's time has
Yield
expired.
back.
See what-
Representative King Hines, you are represent,
At the end, when they
yes, you are. You're recognized for 5 minutes too.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Secretary Collins, for making time to be with us today to talk about this reorganization. I think you took 10 minutes to describe how getting or seeing change in DC is like watching molasses roll down a hill on a cold winter's day. And since my time here, right, that's kind of how it feels. And one of the things that I've noticed really when it comes to change is that, everybody wants change, but for the most part, they want change when it doesn't affect them, or they want change in their pocket,
Mhm,
right? And that seems to be like a common theme around this town.
mhm.
We have been having multiple hearings over different programs to include the DIGB rollout, for example, modernization rollout, for example. And one thing, has been very apparent is that it's very difficult to get folks from the VA to be able to say who is accountable, who is responsible.
Ma'am.
And, I think Representative Van Orden said it best the other day, that like some of these hearings feels like Groundhog's Day.
Yep.
But I think that the reorganization chart, right, or I'm sorry, the old organizational chart speaks to that. Is, the line of business is very, it's not clear. And so I'm very glad that something is being done about that so that we can actually hold somebody responsible and accountable for some of these mishaps, right? Because right now, it's not clear who's in charge based on the organizational chart. The one thing that I do want to raise to your attention, because I was looking at the slides that you shared, and I'm concerned that in the map of the VICNs, right, or the VISNs, that there is no representation of any of the territories. And I'm going to tell you this,
Me too.
you know,
Too, Mr.
it had me in my feelings a little bit
Mhm.
because that's all that I talk about with regards to just trying to get basic care. So can you speak to that, please?
I'll speak to the one who's over it and been working it to get the area that you're talking about done, and John can address that for you.
So are you referring to COFA, just so we're, or are you
I'm-
talking
I'm-
territories in general?
So there's COFA, right?
Right.
They're not US citizens. There are people who live in the territories, like the people of the Northern Mariana Islands, who have one of the highest per capita enlistment rates in any territory, or any state, who get no care, right? We don't have a CBOC. And now we are going from a map that used to actually identify the Marianas as part of this vision, but now we're just focused on the continental United States. And that kind of upsets me, right? Because it feels like we're going backwards.
We're not, we do. It is still there, Greg.
All the American territories are aligned exactly how they are in current state. That map is reflective of what is going to be the biggest change, which is the overall vision boundaries within the continental United States. The care for those veterans that you're talking about is remaining unchanged, and associated oversight is still with Southern California as it is current day.
Okay,
And the Caribbean is still with what's current day Vision 8, state of Florida.
so I want to ask that in terms of the reorganization, what data was analyzed when making the determination to consolidate
Mhm.
from 18 visits into 5? I mean, I asked this question because we are having challenges with access to basic care, right?
Correct.
And I want to make sure that when we do this reorganization, that they are not further shortchanged.
Yes, I completely agree. So this is a fundamental shift in the way which we currently do things in the VA at the VISN level. The VISN directors and the VISN teams currently have to participate in national level business functions. I'm going to use a loose term here, the bureaucracy aspect of what's necessary, in addition to those oversight and coordinating functions for care delivery. So when you look at the big picture, if you just went from 18 to 5 and had the same scope, that would be a big problem. In the new structure that was completely based on market research for all kinds of entities to include public and private, for-profit, not-for-profit, it was very clear that we needed to have an entity within each one of our VISN structures that focused directly on the care delivery and those coordinated needs at the care level without competing priorities against some of that bureaucratic stuff. So each VISN in the current 5 structure has 3 health service areas. Their only focus of scope is care delivery.
All right, thank you. I'm out of time.
Gentlewoman, time has expired. The gentlewoman, Representative Brownlee, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here. I wanted to focus on women veterans for a moment. So women veterans are the fastest growing group of veterans treated at the VA. And when I looked at the organizational chart from, the current organizational chart to the reorganized chart, the Department of Women's Health is not included anywhere. And in the Deborah Sampson bill and that was signed into law in 2021, codified and required that there be a Department of Women's Health, I think reporting to the Undersecretary, which is in the new reorganization is not there. So that's a concern for me. I'm not sure how one is going to monitor the improvements that the Deborah Sampson Act demanded in making sure that we are working towards equity for our women veterans compared to men veterans in terms of access to their health care.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I'm going to address that, but I want to address something up front because I agree with you. And also, by the way, sorry to see you go. We came in together and seeing you go, you've been a great voice in this committee. So I do appreciate that.
Thank you.
Look, women's health has been something I put on the forefront and we're going to take care of it in the structure. I'll talk about that in a second, but I wanted to highlight a couple of things. We've actually are opening more of our women's health care clinics so they have better access.
No, I understand. That was required in Deborah Sampson.
Well, the other thing is too, is I had this year, I made the change last year in which we were making our women veterans, if you wasn't aware of this, go through their primary care doctor to get to their OBGYN. They were
I'm aware.
delayed.
Okay, and we still doing it because, and I'm going to post it for you guys, that even though the Senate committee is requesting for women not to have to go to their providers, the VA still wants to be in control because they don't only want them to get certain types of care, women's care, and saying that they have to have control over it because women may go out there and do a whole bunch of stuff and they're not going to pay for it. So, Dougie, you full of you know what? Because you still doing it. So stop lying.
Did away with that. They can now go straight to it. Okay. So with that, I just wanted you to know that and let John see where this at in the structure.
And ma'am,
Quickly, I want to take advantage of my time here.
so women's health is there, and the women's health programs under our national programs, and it's on our enterprise side of the reorganization, and that reports.
Okay. I'm having a hard time. Reproductive health obviously is part of women's health care within the VA, and I'm having a hard time reconciling when women now make up 20% of the active duty military and reserves. If you're in the military, woman's in the military in uniform, she has access to abortion in the cases of rape, incest, or the health of the mother. When she leaves the military, takes off her uniform, comes to the VA, now she does not have access to abortion in the cases of rape and incest. And I must say, a very confusing definition of her life being in danger. So talking to women veterans across the country, this is what women veterans want, yet it's being taken away. They serve the military, they have the benefit, they come to the VA is taken away. I'm having a hard time reconciling that. If you could comment.
Yeah, I'm not having a hard time at all, Congresswoman, I appreciate it, but this is something that's been talked about.
The disrespect, I'm not having a hard time at all. Now, the VA is choosing what a woman does with her body, not what a woman does with her body. So, for instance, if a woman has been, RA, an SA, and she decided, and that's the thing that needs to be done, and you are a veteran, the VA is not going to pay for it, women. They're not. But if you're on active duty, it's possible. But if you're a veteran and you go over to that, they're not doing it.
In this committee, the VA up until 3 years ago didn't do abortions period anyway. So it's the same happened for under both presidents, Republicans and Democrats. It's not.
We finally did the right thing.
I would disagree.
Changing the regulation.
Again, that's a political difference it will have in that regard, but it's also a legal difference in the sense that the Department of Justice found that what was done does not follow current law on what the VA can do, and that is what we're following.
Yep.
Okay. I would like to have this argument with you off the dais.
It would
because it's a
probably
longer
be a great
argument.
It
So
would probably be
the
a
other
great
thing
one.
I would just want to point out too, with regards to the physician's ability to counsel women around abortion. So just to have a complete prohibition and gag order that a physician, even if they're talking to a woman patient who is seriously ill and perhaps the option of an abortion might save her life or make sure that she has a higher quality of life later on in her life. Yet there's a gag order. A physician can't do that. That it's against their, their HIPAA obligations. So I just, again, I don't understand why you would do that. Even giving the woman the opportunity, if she needs an abortion, to go outside of the VA, if the VA is not going to provide it, but not to be able to have the physician advise her just seems,
It seems very terrible. So you can't even get information from a VA physician if you are even contemplating. Okay? You can't even get advice from your own primary care physician if you are in a position where you need one of those. You can't. Because they have put measures in place where it cannot even be discussed. How horrible. Disgusting.
outrageous to me.
Gentleman, time.
Cruel.
Gentleman, time has expired. Representative Barrett, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it. Secretary and gentlemen, thank you for being here for testimony in front of the committee. Mr. Goins, I wanted to allow you had mentioned in one of the earlier questions about some of the changes in how these VISNs typically operate today, where they have a lot more of a focus perhaps on the organizational apparatus as it relates to expectations coming out of Washington, the management of the organization that way, and less about the actual care delivery for veterans. As I look at the new organization chart, I think the health service areas are going to be the ones that are directly engaged with the management of health outcomes for veterans. Is that true in that sense?
Yes, that's exactly true. So the current state of affairs, a VISN director and their team would be responsible for that. Plus, as you said, the organizational apparatus requirements that I referred to as bureaucracy.
Yeah, the bureaucracy. Yeah, the things that fatigue people to death.
Yes, the challenge is it pulls you physically away from the space as well. It's
Right.
an important need. Organization of this size, largest integrated health system in the country, we need those functions, no different than a Procter & Gamble or any other organization of this complexity and size. At the end of the day, it also requires you to come to DC to be part of some of these larger group decisions through governance, et cetera. And for every day or minute you're involved with those kind of things, it's less time you can be engaged with VSOs, local community hospital partners.
Tell me, I come to DC every week.
Yeah.
You know,
So you get it.
I feel it, man.
Yeah.
I completely get that. And allowing people to be basically assigned to the health delivery outcomes of, and managing the staff in that sense and the hospitals that are within that, I think is a great way of elevating that role to the most important piece that they have, which is ultimately the health outcomes of these veterans. I mean, we hear from a lot of folks about, oh, you know, we want to make changes, but we don't want to make changes in a fashion that we didn't come up with ourselves or something like that. Or perhaps we have a pride of ownership of who came up with these ideas or how the structure is going. A chronic frustration I have here in Congress is that we never seem to be ready to make changes. It's always not the right time to do it, or we're going to wait and do it a different time. These have been things that have been talked about, as you pointed out, for decades to bring about real and systemic change to veterans for their health outcome. I can tell you candidly, I've been a veteran for 23 years now, since I was 21 years old. If you had asked me when I was 25 what a VISN was, I would have had no idea, because I didn't need to know. It wasn't relevant to my actual interfacing with the VA. It's relevant to the management of the organization, but our veterans deserve to be able to walk into a VA, get the care that they need without being fatigued by which VISN they're in and which, process is being followed. To have somebody that is assigned to their health outcomes in a much more focused and exclusive manner should bring about better outcomes for them. And I certainly hope that it does. I did want to touch on, though, Secretary or either of your panelists joining you, I got to bring up the EHRM rollout. and how that will interface with this realignment of VISNs and what type of expectation we have there, and if we can be satisfied that that will go on unencumbered with this change that you're talking about as well.
That is one of our most important pieces as we go forward, not only for direct care, but also community care in the future, is getting a EHRM, which again, will go live April 1st in the 4
April
areas.
11th.
Yeah, in Michigan, but it's on track, and I think that it aligns with, we've aligned it with the vision structure as we change. And the rollout hopefully is we're successful, as it looks like we are going to be in these 13 this year, will actually help with momentum getting into the other areas as well, possibly quicker.
Okay.
Can I just add to that, just so we're perfectly clear? We have worked with the Deputy Secretary's office as the one designated as the owner for EHRM
Secretary
rollout.
Lawrence?
Yes. And on the operations side, we have made an agreement through the Undersecretary Bartram that we will make sure that the schedule that's already been published is completely considered and unencumbered as we do the reorganization. Again, this is an iterative phased approach, and we are not in a hurry to just blow things up.
So even though we're doing EHRM by the current VISN structure rollout, it will not be impeded or affected by the change that you're proposing.
Correct. In addition to the continuity of care priority, that is our second highest priority through the reorg.
Okay. Thank you. I'm almost out of time, but I wanted to share briefly with you the reason why this is so important. My father-in-law came to visit from Oklahoma to Michigan over Christmas. He gets his health care through the VA. He had a diabetic sensor on his arm that battery died or something. I think you all helped us with that, but they couldn't coordinate between the two VA hospitals to get him that very easily.
Gentlemen,
So,
time is expired.
So I want to pause here for a little bit to talk about this EHRM. I did a video earlier today that I want you guys to go take a look when it comes to EHRM. Okay. So Oracle has now had the contract. They had the contract for some time, right? So Oracle was not doing a good job. So then the committee realized Oracle wasn't doing a good job, and they decided to do an OIG investigation. So when the OIG got into it, the VA then had to roll back and be like, wait, we got to pump our brakes because we're paying these people. At first, it was $50 billion. Then it ended up being $252 billion. Okay. Now, when it comes to Oracle, there are sources that are saying that the owner of Oracle is in cahoots with the people, and that's why the contract is continued. So now the VA is giving Oracle a year-by-year contract to see how good they're doing. So right now, like he said, it was supposed to go live April 11th. Apparently it did in Michigan, and it's supposed to go live in 5 other states, which is Ohio, Kentucky, Alaska, and I'm not sure who the other one is, right? So what is going to happen is prescriptions, medical records, all that stuff is supposed to be tied together. So if you go state to state and you have to go to VAs or whatever, you ain't gonna have to be enrolling in another clinic. You're supposed to be doing, that. Okay. So you guys can go listen to the video I did earlier, but this is fishy, very fishy. And if you do a little bit of research about the who's in charge of Oracle and how they have connection with Dougie and everybody else, you'll realize that this is all a money grab, and this is how they are going to be in cahoots together. But anyway, I'm gonna just go ahead and hit continue so y'all can listen.
looking forward to that rollout. Thank you so much.
The gentleman from, Mr. Pappas, you were recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, it's good to see you. And I appreciate the recent visit to New Hampshire. I know that veterans appreciated the fact that you were on the ground and getting familiar with some of the unique circumstances that we face.
So they just laid off 30K and they're supposed to be in charge. Anyway, I'm done.
At our medical facility in Manchester. It's obviously an old facility. It has infrastructure that has failed on many occasions, that have put whole areas of that facility out of commission. And during your visit, we talked about the ongoing action plan and feasibility study to talk about delivering a full-service VA hospital for the veterans of New Hampshire. We're the only state in the lower 48 without a full-service hospital, a designation that we lost over 20 years ago. It was due to the president on November 5th of last year. And I'm really interested to know if that plan was delivered to the president and where things stand. Veterans in New Hampshire are really interested in getting a read on that.
It is good. It was good to be with you. And is also, I think one of the things that, and I'm just going to make this as a blanket statement. If and I just say this with just a heart. If you've not visited a VAMC or a facility and you're on the committee, please do so. Okay, I'm saying that to Republicans and Democrats, because you get a better understanding of what's going on. I've done over 30 states and almost 75 of our facilities, various from VAMCs to vet centers. By the way, go to vet centers, they need to be. VAMC in yours is a unique situation that goes to an earlier comment about our construction issues and why it's taking so long. That has been delivered to the White House. It is at the White House now for the final processing, and we're hopefully to have an answer out of that in the very near future.
Can you characterize it at all and let veterans in New Hampshire know, is this a menu of options? Is it one recommendation? And is the president the decision maker on this, or is it the department?
Well, we're going to let the White House process go through it. I'd rather do that than have to come back and then be accused of saying something that wasn't true or that wasn't as a plan that came out. So it's with them, and we'll get that out.
They've been waiting a long time, and I appreciate understanding what's going on here at the earliest moment that you can provide.
The gentleman I work for actually made.
Oh, no, you're not going to be accused of not saying it. You do it all the time. It is your track record. A leopard cannot change his spots, but you are too busy being on X and going to VA facilities and making videos instead of doing what you're supposed to be doing, sir. Please and thank you. We're just calling a spade a spade. We're just laying it on the carpet. This is what you have given us. We can only go by what you have given us. We can't go by nothing else.
I promise.
In New Hampshire.
It's coming.
Great. I want to move on to another issue that we've been dealing with on our Economic Opportunities Subcommittee. It's the issue with Chapter 35 education benefits and a gap that occurred last fall that was very severe. We were hearing from veterans in our office, people who had trouble paying their rent and paying their prescription costs because their tuition bill wasn't paid. And so I'm just wondering if you can provide some more insight into the breakdown there. It was a month and a half where veterans were in the dark. Congress was also left in the dark. We had letters that went unanswered. I appreciate we received a letter yesterday that we sent over to you on December 15th, I believe, initially asking for some further detail. But it's inexcusable for veterans not to have this basic information about where these payments stood. And again, you talk about the shutdown, that's the excuse that we received. But the Anti-Deficiency Act is pretty clear that in situations that involve the protection of property and life, and making sure that veterans get access to benefits, that they should have been receiving an answer on this. So I'd like you to address that.
Happy to on that. Yes, that was a problem, frankly, that we received. We dealt with it. It came from a manual issue from basically going back to 24 that rolled into 25. We stopped that. At this point, that has been transferred over, and most are getting there almost same day on GI benefits. They're getting the GI Bill is working.
But it's really the communication that
the communication
is inexcusable, the lack of it.
I don't disagree that always communication on any level from both sides could be better, okay, on anything. And I face this every day in this job that I take because I have to get the same information. I have to ask sometimes multiple times to get it. The issue that we have here, though, is, and I know that it was a concern, and I understand your issue with the shutdown, but it did hamper us. We were getting benefits out, but when you're down to one or two people, when you're normally having a lot more people to do it, it does slow the process down. And we were doing what we were supposed to under law, but we had to do it under also the burden of a shutdown that lasted longer than any in history.
Well, you eventually, during the shutdown, did communicate with veterans in late October. But again, this was a month and a half after the problem was discovered, and veterans were left in the dark here, coming to us for answers that we couldn't get out of the department. And I just know that there are going to be other instances in the future where there are systems that are migrated, where there are gaps and disruptions to benefits, and veterans deserve answers at the very least. I want to move on to one final issue, and this is an issue that I raised with you in your last appearance before this committee around VASP and the partial claims program. You said at that time, I think the first step is that Congress needs to act upon this. So we took your advice, we passed a bipartisan bill, but it's been 6 months since the partial claims program was signed into law, hasn't been stood up yet. I've got veterans that are asking when they can get relief. Can you give us an answer on when we're going to be able to see that program put into place?
Yes, that is being done now. We've got it is being done, and it should be done shortly. We did have to integrate it in with the current system that we had. You'll be getting an answer on that very shortly.
Thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman, time is expired.
Okay, because the article 2 weeks ago had said that there was still no program in place for the VASP, and 90,000 veterans are about to be homeless due to no VASP program, and there's nothing in place to keep them from their house going into foreclosure. Now, this hearing was about 6 weeks ago, and nothing happened since then. So once again, you have been proven to what? Be a liar. Let's keep going.
The Representative Mace, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank the Secretary for being here this afternoon as well. The Ralph Johnson VA Medical Center, in partnership with the Medical University of South Carolina, continues to play a crucial role in improving the lives of veterans throughout the Low Country. And I kid you not, I had a call this morning from a veteran praising the Ralph H. Johnson VA facility in Charleston, South Carolina, as being a model facility that they get about 70% of their care there, and they're a cancer survivor, and they're just truly grateful for the example that the Ralph Johnson VA Center in Charleston is for other veterans facilities and medical treatment around the country. The location of the Ralph Johnson Medical Center has been critical to improving outcomes for veterans and conducting high-quality medical research. After a 60-year track record in downtown Charleston, I was deeply disappointed in the VA's decision in 2024 to deny a floodplain waiver for the lease of a replacement research facility. We get a lot of flooding in Charleston. If it sprinkles, it's flooding. And we want to make sure that veterans have access to the care that they need. So last year, Secretary Collins, I wrote to you asking you to reconsider this denial, and you declined to do so. So may I ask you today what led you to make that decision to deny this waiver?
Congresswoman, I think the biggest thing is one of the things you brought up, one of our best, it's not just in the top few percentage, it's probably in the top 2 or 3 of the whole system, Charleston is. The same things that denied the first time are the same things that we go back on as the issues that we have to deal with when you look at long-term and where we have to build and how we have to build in a floodplain or not build in a floodplain. There's other options that are available, and we're looking at those other options then going back into this area.
So you won't reevaluate this decision?
Not at this point, no.
Okay. Can you assure that care for our veterans won't be affected?
He can't.
I mean, that's the first and foremost thing we do.
Or be interrupted?
First and foremost thing we do.
So without this waiver, I mean, care potentially could be interrupted for veterans.
Correct.
I would disagree with that characterization. It could be disrupted for many reasons, not this one in particular.
But you don't think this is just a simple tweak we can do right now temporarily even?
In the Congresswoman, I understand the situation here, but here I'm just going to play it.
Are you going to move the Ralph Johnson VA facility, or I mean?
No, that's not to say. Let's deal with the point. Here's the issue. Let me just take it out a step further. We issue a waiver, and then 5 years from now it floods. Okay, I have to look at the long-term process.
5 years from now, what? I missed that. 5 years from now.
5 years, it could flood in the floodplain where we put it.
It could flood tomorrow.
It could. That's why we don't put it there.
But if we're talking about like ingress and egress of a facility, that to me seems like not a major, infrastructure issue, that it's not, my biggest concern is getting quality care for our veterans in South Carolina. Secretary Collins, the Ralph Johnson Medical Center hasn't experienced the staffing shortages per se as other facilities have. To what do you attribute the success of the Ralph Johnson?
I think it's leadership, and that's what we're striving for across the board. One of the things that has happened and is the standards have been set on our leadership. We've allowed many times our VA medical centers, which oversee also our clinics, have been paralyzed into being non-senior leaders. Okay, the fortunate part at Charleston is they have acted like senior leaders. They've made decisions and they put those first. We've not seen that across the board. Greg Goins, who was a visiting director, saw this firsthand. He's had a lot of input across with Secretary Bartram as well, because we're now putting it back into the place where we have leadership, so that one of the things we have right now is a dashboard that allows every hospital to see how they rank with every other hospital. So if they're down in something, they can go to a Charleston and say, hey, how do you do this? How can we get better?
I love that.
Can I add to that? I can tell you definitively, based on my experience, the secret in Charleston is the leader. Scott Isaacs has been in place for a long time. We have a lot of really good leaders in the VA, frankly, but we don't have a lot of really good leaders with longevity. So the issue that has been so prevalent in Charleston is because of the longevity of Scott and a vision he's been able to set and execute.
Scott, the word of the day here is longevity. You know why nobody wants to stay? Because they don't want to make pennies, okay? They don't want to make the little bit of pennies because you ain't trying to give them no incentive. You ain't trying to raise their pay. You ain't trying to do nothing. You just want to give them what you think they should get. Meanwhile, the big wigs that's sitting up there next to you, they making the good money, but the people who are really doing the work is making pennies, and they tired of making pennies, okay? Pissing me off.
Isaacs, he's been wonderful, actually. He was the one that told me that the VA does outpatient care with our geriatric patients, and he actually put my father and one of my family members in a program and outfitted the bars in the hallway and the scooter and the walker and all those things that I didn't know veterans could get as they're aging. And I have been amplifying and spreading that to every aging veteran that I know to get that high quality care throughout South Carolina. So I want to thank you, Secretary Collins, for being here today answering my questions. Thank you so much.
Gentlewoman's time expired. Representative Sheffield McCormick, you are recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Secretary Collins, for being here. Before we talk about innovation and administrative restructuring, I really want to point out what's at stake. Recently, last week in my district at our VA, we actually had a veteran suicide. One of the workers went outside and shot himself in the parking lot. For every veteran who's watching, for every veteran who came to my office yesterday crying and scared about what's going on and our responsibility to protect our veterans, it increases my responsibility to scrutinize this restructuring. I think we all understand that. Right now in Florida, when we look at the VISN, it actually adds Florida with 5 more states. And so there's a lot of concern there that are our veterans going to be able to get the help that they need. Right now, the wait time is 31 days. So there's a lot of concern about this grouping. And I've heard your explanation already of how this is supposed to work. But for our veterans who are watching right now, who are very scared, could we say it in layman's term of how this is going to get better as we're grouping a complex state like Florida with 5 extra states?
Listen, y'all, listen.
One, I'm going to answer it from the top level and let Greg or John, whichever wants to answer this. The top level aspect is with the HSA structure, they're actually going to get more care. But also the biggest part about this reorg, I think that's missing sometimes when we talk about this, and I appreciate your discussion, is that we're missing that this is not affecting how the hospitals and the visits and hospitals and clinics operate. We're giving them more freedom, more latitude. Y'all have some of the best programs for food down there. I'm championing that all over the country with the food. If you've never seen this, encourage you to talk to her. They have Amazon boxes basically where they get food. So in suicide, I mean, because you brought it up, let me write. I get those reports. There's nothing that bothers me more than those reports. That's why we have redone the entire suicide prevention program. That's why we're actually doing outreach to those who are not being cared for in the others. John.
I'll pass it over to Greg in a minute, but ma'am, you're absolutely right that we have to do this reorganization to make sure that it's consistency across the facilities. Right now, when you saw the org chart that my friend from the Navy had put up at the Congressman that showed all the disjointedness. So if you're running a facility right now, you don't get consistent information. And so we've all heard the adage, if you've seen one VA, you've seen one VA. We need to have the adage that when you go to one VA, it's like all the VAs, because we have to have consistency of policy and consistency of application.
This kind of brings me to my concern. My time is running out because every VA has been unique. And when we see the uniqueness, we haven't seen any streamlining actually going on before this reorganization. You know, we talk consistently about making sure that we have standardization, and we haven't seen any real standardization being incorporated or being successfully incorporated. So lumping all 5 is concerning. And before we go to that also, when we look at the VA is a unique structure. Part of that is learning from the lessons, the past lessons as we go forward. Such a big reorganization is it's disruptive, and we all know that. But if it could work, if we actually had real steps in place that we can scrutinize, feel comfortable with, I think more people, but that's actually lacking. So as we shift the conversation and you talk about it, I do want to see if you've actually incorporated some of the 9 steps that the GAO recommended when actually restructuring and to make sure we're learning from our past mistakes.
So let me say first that I agree completely with everything you've said as far as the criticality of this, as far as how we do this and how we go about it. One of the biggest pieces in order to make this successful has to be frontline voice, not just from veterans, but more importantly from the frontline employees that are actually caring for veterans and the frontline leaders. We have done that twice. We had over 300 leaders, every single hospital director in one room at a time, The sole purpose of that is to create a plan that has exactly the details that you're looking for.
And so
We're
as my-
continuing to develop that.
As my time is running out, I just want to know specifically about this GAO document that highlights of the GAO reform. It talks about the mergers. It has 9 actually policies and steps in here. Have you seen this document and have you incorporated anything from it?
They can't answer.
As we develop the plan that I just mentioned a second ago, all aspects of those types of reports, GAO, OIG, et cetera, in addition to the original documents when the VISNs were created, are going to be part of the action planning that is associated with our future state and how we get there.
So I'm assuming that you're going to fully incorporate it, so when we get a plan that's more detailed, that we'll see everything in it to have more confidence in it. If, as of right now, because we don't have that kind of information, I think it creates an anxiety, not just amongst us as legislators, but also with our veterans. And so we would love to have a real plan so we can actually meet the needs of all of our veterans. Thank you so much.
An outcome of the work that's been going on to incorporate frontline feedback to it. In addition, we've met with VSOs. We've started to work with Congress the way that you've heard the Secretary talk. All of that will be incorporated in it. In addition to that, there should be references, and there will be in that plan, to the things in which we're referring to include the report that you've got in front of you.
Gentlewoman, time is expired. Representative Kiggins, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you so much to our panelists and Mr. Secretary for taking time to be here and for what you're doing to support our veterans. I represent Virginia's 2nd District, so home to a large Navy population, large veteran population. It's so nice to have my neighbor and colleague, Congressman Scott, here. Our VA Medical Center actually sits in his district, so very, very nice to welcome him. But, I wanted to thank you also for the work you're doing with mental health. That's certainly a priority of mine. I don't know how many of us who sit on this committee have had the privilege of actually working at a VA facility. As a nurse practitioner, I spent 3 months working in the Hampton VA when I was a new nurse practitioner. And one of the reasons I left was because I didn't touch patients. I did a lot of administrative work. I was losing my clinical skills. And I would walk around on my lunch break and see buildings full of people. And I didn't know what those buildings were doing, what those people were doing. I spent some time and would find the one geriatrician who we had on staff and shadow her for over my lunch breaks just to keep up with my clinical skills. But she was overwhelmed. The physicians there were overwhelmed. The nurses there were overwhelmed.
Yep.
They were doing the bulk of the work of actually touching patients, talking to patients, caring for patients. Those are the people we needed more of. I didn't know what was happening in all the other buildings. I still don't, even when I go back there. So I applaud your efforts with this restructuring. I know change is hard. I know you have to be brave and it takes courage and you're going to take some heat for that. But thank you, because the picture I saw, and again, I was just a lowly nurse practitioner, but there was so much room for improvement. So I think the time is now to do that. I wanted to bring my questions a little bit closer to home and ask about the Hampton VA. I know we had a lot of leadership changes there over the past couple years. We still do not have a director position that's filled. It would be great to put new leadership in place. I know we did a lot of work just to change, the current leadership that we felt was kind of a root part of the problem. But what are you doing, and can you tell me the timeline for that leadership replacement?
Thank you for that question, ma'am. You're absolutely right. We are in the process of putting out a advertisement. I'm anticipating from our HR team that the advertisement will go out this week, at the latest next week. And then we'll start the process for advertising for a new leader at Hampton and a number of other sites as well.
So to that end, just so I can try to help quelch some of the fear that I can detect in your voice, we do that nationally. So that's what Undersecretary is talking about. However, there's a process to get it done. And in the meantime, if there is an issue with Takesha Simmons' detail needing to expire or needing to be extended, we are committed to make sure that we have long-term leadership longevity prior to that selection. So she'll either be extended or we will go through a process to find a qualified leader in that place.
It'd be great to put permanent leadership in place. I think if we're looking for culture shift or looking for just, a new direction to solve some of the problems we have there, it's a great facility, but I just want to make sure that permanent change is made.
Yeah, Congresswoman, I also want to say, and this is to everybody on the committee, one of the things that was disheartening to me when I first came in was how many interims we had sitting around executive leadership teams across the country. I have made a very concerted effort to change that at all of our facilities, where you're getting at least the director, the executive director, the chief of staffs. Those are permanent so they can make real changes. And what we're having to do right now, though, is frankly, because we've not done a good pipeline, we're having to move some people in to fill gaps while we develop that pipeline. But that's my top goal, is to get those permanent.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate prioritizing that. And then my other question is about our great new facility, our North Battlefield Clinic in Chesapeake. And And I know, Mr. Secretary, you were there at our ribbon cutting. Thank you for coming down for that. And I understand why we didn't open our doors and have all the providers and all the places, and that we were working on building up that patient base, and it made sense to me. I know that our goal was January to have it at max, max capacity for staffing, and that we're now in February and we're not quite there. And I know, we've addressed it. I think my colleague, Congressman Scott's addressed it as well. But can you tell us what the timeline is that for adequate staffing, or full staffing, I guess I should say, at that facility? Because it's a beautiful new building. I know that our veterans are using it. I know there's a provider shortage on the nurses and physician side, but what are we doing to make sure that facility is fully staffed?
Oh, everything we possibly can. And I think that's the issue that I appreciate what you said there at the very end, because that makes it very permanent. We'll hire as we need. There's 534 allocated positions built. We've built those positions out. There's 335 that are encumbered, 199 that are vacant. Out of those 199, 166 are in active recruitment right now. 27 are pending, 5 are pending, just getting back to us. But let me also state that facility is now doing every service it was provided to do. They're doing the service, and we will ramp up the amount of service as we are able to hire and get away from other facilities to hire these people. So it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. This is where we're at.
Great. Thank you for prioritizing that as well. And I yield back.
The gentlelady.
Do y'all see this? What is everything that it's supposed to be doing? What is everything it's supposed to be doing? You can't even answer the question, honestly.
Reeled back for the advising the committee members. Representative Ramirez, you're going to get 5 minutes. Everybody else, we're going to cut it down to 3, so everybody will have the opportunity to at least ask questions before they're going to call votes, and we've got that hard out. So I've talked with the ranking member, and he's in agreement with that, and so we're going to do it that way.
All right.
You're recognized for
There we go.
5 minutes.
All right, thank you, Chairman and Ranking Member. We'll keep it tight. Mr. Secretary, it's good to see you again. So I want to get straight into some of what we've seen in this past year. We know that VA workers have been stripped of nearly all their labor rights. The department is struggling to staff and deliver services to veterans. Proven programs have been gutted while promising new, more effective solutions. And the Department of Homeland Security is kidnapping and deporting veterans and executing VA employees in broad daylight. And yet, folks seem unbothered. I've come to believe that's because employee retention and satisfaction, quality service delivery, consistent outcomes, and veteran protections aren't actually the goals of the VA. The truth is that it doesn't seem like you care about those things. Your mission, I'll be frank, from what I'm seeing, is you care about pleasing this president, advancing his privatization to profit agenda. Look, I want to take your words after Alex Preddy was executed by DHS. You used your statement to blame Minnesota state and local officials for a murder perpetrated at the hands of federal agents. And at a time when accountability, integrity, honesty, and courage were needed, Secretary, you peddled some of the same trash that DHS was peddling, even though your responsibility is to lead the VA, not to do the job of DHS. So I want to ask you a couple questions. Secretary, did you talk to Secretary Noem or the president or anyone in the administration about Alex Preddy?
No.
Yes or no?
I have not talked to anyone about that in the administration.
Let me ask you, if you would you have talked to them about how he cared about the nation's veterans as he took care of them in hospitals?
I'm not going to engage in hypothetical conversations.
Well, so you haven't talked to them and you are not going to talk about hypothetical standing up for Alex. So, Mr. Secretary, let's see if there's some care now. Would you call for Secretary Noem to resign given her execution of a VA employee?
I have said all on this issue that I'm going to say, and
Okay, you have nothing else to talk about it. Okay, got it. So I want to then pivot and talk to you about deported veterans. Let's take your words on VA's role in targeting non-citizen veterans. In a letter dated January 13th, at the same time that you recognize that your mission is to serve all veterans, you also admitted that you're sharing non-citizen data consistent with interagency agreements. Has your agency assisted in the deportation of non-citizen veterans, Mr. Secretary? Yes or no?
That comes from a report that has nothing to do with sharing the legal status of veterans. That actually
Secretary,
comes to us.
has your agency helped deport veterans? Oh, you're not going to answer.
Do you want an answer or not?
I do,
Do
but you
you
don't
want an
seem
answer or
to.
not? Then yes, no is not an answer. And you've
Then-
been here long
Then
enough
it tells
to
me that
figure
you're
that
trying
out.
to cover up the
No,
fact
it
that
says
you are
that you have
assisting.
your own
I'm moving
opinion.
on and I'm reclaiming
Well,
my
I
time.
can sit here and talk.
Gentlemen-
and
Let's
want an answer.
continue.
The
Mr.
district
Secretary.
is
Gentlewoman's
loud.
reclaiming her time.
So let me ask you another question. Are you ensuring that deported veterans are still receiving their benefits? Are deported veterans still receiving their benefits? That's a pretty simple yes or no.
Yeah. Yes or no?
Yes?
Look, he
No?
don't even know. He don't know. He does not know.
On that question,
That is-
I'll be frank with you. On that question, depending on their legal status and everything, how they'd actually get veterans and benefits, we'll have to see what that actually says.
So
And
we
I'm
don't
not- and I'm
know.
not
Okay,
gonna-
okay, then let me move on.
Unlike you, I'm
only
actually
have
answering honestly.
I have a minute and 26 seconds. Actually, I'm being very honest. It was a yes or no, and you don't know if they're getting their benefits or not. So I want to talk about VA workers now. Secretary Collins, let's take your words on VA workers. At the same time that you said VA employees need to be singularly focused on veteran care and services, you dragged VA employees as too often fighting against the best interests of veterans. In your crusade against VA labor, you have illegally terminated collective bargaining rights, ended unpaid parental leave, and terminated the use of FMLA for in-law care. And yet people seem to be running to work at your VA. I almost applauded you for reducing the time to hire a VHA employee from 109 days in 2024 to 47 days as of last month.
Almost.
But look, I took a closer look at it and I realized that it's smoke and mirrors. Unlike your predecessor who measured the time to hire as the number of days it takes for a new hire to start the job, you are measuring the number of days it takes for an applicant to receive a tentative job offer.
Yep.
And that is why we can't trust anything that's coming out of your office. It is clear, Secretary Collins, that you don't care about Alex Preddy. You certainly can't even respond to yes or no basic question about deported veterans or the workforce. You have no commitment to accountability, to integrity, or to honesty. And you cannot be trusted to do the reorg of the VA because just like that time to hire board, you peddle lies, half-truths, and misinformation. Look, this is what I'm going to say to you. I only have 2
The
seconds.
gentlewoman's time has
Will be held
expired.
accountable.
The gentlewoman's time has expired. Representative Hammond, you are recognized.
Yep.
We're going to go to, I'm sorry, I need to tell the timer this. Staff's conversation, we are going to go back to 5 minutes. Staff had agreed back and forth, so we're
Let me see how much.
in 5 minutes. We'll go as far as we can go. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Collins, thank you for being here today. And first of all, I'd like to say something that you're not hearing enough of. Thank you for your service to our veterans. I hear the great work and the improvements that are happening in my district. And what you're doing to reorganize the Veteran Health Administration is not, it's necessary, it's responsible, and it's long overdue. Now, for years now, the committee has been handed report after report by the GAO and the IG from the Commission on Care, all saying the same thing, that the VHA's management structure is broken. Too many layers, too many redundant bureaucracy, and what should be decisions that take a day becomes one that takes even months. So now you and the administration are finally doing something about it. And certain members of this committee want to pretend like the sky is falling. Well, Mr. Secretary, let's get some facts on the record. Now, this chart behind me compares 2 lines over the same time period. The VHA's workforce increased by about 14% between the fiscal year 2019 and fiscal year 2024. And the patient encounters, it grew by just 6%. Workforce expanding at more than twice the demand for care. And that's not a staffing crisis, that's an imbalance. Mr. Secretary, this chart speaks for itself, but I want to give you the chance to speak to it directly. Can you walk through this committee about what this data tells us about VHA staffing?
I can, and I'm going to also get you some more color on that. But also I want to say for this committee, first and foremost, and it's been said many times, the only thing that I have on my agenda is a veteran, period. That's what started the change to good at the VA last year when I said the only thing that's going to come first is veterans first. And our workers now have a purpose. And our workers know what they're doing, and they've actually improved. And I'm proud of that. And I'm not going to take nameless names and programs that have been gutted supposedly that have not being given a chance to answer to. This is an issue, though, that we have that is the heart problem of where we are. In this town, it's throw money and people and everything gets better. And that's just not the way it is. 14% over 6. It actually is worse in some areas. And I could go list by everybody's. You had some that would increase 30% in FTE counts, but yet only that actually went negative in actual touches of people. This is something we faced in the field. Greg has had to deal with this, and these one of the reasons that we came forward on how we deal with this going forward and why this restructuring is needed.
You see how mad
Thank you,
he
Mr.
is?
Secretary. So one of the things that's very objectively clear,
He's pissed.
this goes back to Ranking Member Takano's question earlier about does the VA have enough employees or enough staff? The short answer is at a totality level, probably pretty close. What is not true, though, is that there is an absolute imbalance. There are places where we do need more physicians, and there are places where we have plenty of staff. And the short answer is if we don't go through with an evaluation from a demand basis, we do not have an ability at a national level to address resource needs where there are growing veteran populations. That has never been able to be done in the past at an enterprise level.
So in other words, making sure the tax dollars are not tied up in excessive administration overhead, but instead redirected to frontline service, modern equipment, and facilities that actually serve the veteran. Now, you're undertaking a new request for proposals for entire Veterans Community Care Network, VCCNs, correct?
We are in the process. It's in our RFP now, so I can speak to what we had as you had the hearing on last week. I'll speak to that round.
And what confidence can you provide to this community that the next generation of TPA contracts, that the administrators will be held accountable for basic network integrity?
I can't tell you how long I've been waiting for that question to come from this committee. And in a very honest way, because many of us have done this for years, and I was a part of this committee, and there's only about 4 of us on this committee that can say this, actually voted for choice and actually voted for mission, which set this up. What we did not know at that time was, because we were trying to get help from a bad situation of wait times and issues, we set it up as quickly as possible. And frankly, I can just say from a bigger perspective, we had very little takers on helping us. We ended up with, Choice Act was a disaster. Mission Act has put us into 2 vendors, third-party access, and there was nothing in the contracts that were holding accountable. Well, let me rephrase that. There was, VA just didn't hold them accountable. One of the reasons that I'm confident in this RFP that is out right now and when it goes through is that we have basically 10 years of failure to learn from. We have 10 years of why this doesn't work, that we incorporated those problems into this so we can hold them accountable, do better management, and make sure that we're doing not only what's best for the veteran, but what's best for the VA as well. So I have full confidence when this comes out that we're going to have much more participation, but we're also going to have 10 years. And I'll go back to where the ranking member and I agree on. History does teach us things. This one is one big one where history has taught us things that we need to add on to it.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Gentleman, time has expired. Representative Kennedy, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning. Mr. Secretary, you're asking Congress to accept a VHA reorganization that had moved 4,000 to 5,000 employees while the workforce is already strained by the deferred resignation program, attrition, and hiring disruptions. The VA has the data of the workforce. I requested back in August a detailed description of the employment changes and impact in Western New York for the Buffalo VA in the healthcare system for VAs. I received a response from you in October that was vague and did not answer any of the questions outlined regarding staffing levels. Will you commit to me today to provide the data that I asked for back in August to my office?
We are working that right now and can discuss that as far as staffing levels go.
Is that a yes? You will,
I just
you will,
said that
you
we're-
will
we're
give
getting it to
me,
you, yes.
you will provide me.
That is what we're saying,
The
yeah.
detailed description I asked for was occupation, job title, grade level, facility, reason for departure, whether the employee was retirement eligible, participated in the deferred resignation program, or whether the employee was terminated.
Get nothing.
The idea that it's been about 6 months, Mr. Secretary, that I haven't gotten a response and you're asking us to buy into this reorganization is unacceptable. Please.
Yes, Representative, we can
They
commit
got
to getting the data and the information. One of the things I wanted to highlight, and just to highlight really the issues that we've been facing collectively, and I think Representative Kagan really kind of mentioned it. There she was, a trained nurse that was doing administrative work. So when you talk about what somebody does and what positions we have, we don't even know what they're doing. So the ability from a bottom-up delivery of medical centers actually restructuring and reorganizing and identifying their requirements and outline their personnel, will be able to look and identify. Up to this point, we haven't had the ability to do that. We weren't tracking. People hired, people all over the place, people were nurses not doing nurse jobs. This is exactly what we're tackling. we'll get you that information.
Thank you. I would like to enter both of these letters into the record, Mr.
Please
Chairman.
do.
Without objection.
I do want to focus on the workforce impacts already hitting the Veterans Health Administration.
Nothing.
The reorganization again comes at a
Nothing.
time where tens of thousands of employees have been lost in the last year. Doctors, nurses, mental health professionals, police officers, forcing facilities to close hundreds of
Yep.
beds because of the lack of staff. VA has eliminated vacant positions, pushed full steam ahead with changes that risk driving even more experienced staff out the door, and failing to provide Congress up to this point. We'll take you at your word here today that you'll provide clear, detailed workforce data. I'd like all of the data, quite frankly, obviously for my own purposes in
You're not getting
Buffalo
that.
at the VA in Western New York. But I think it's important that every member of this committee at least has information regarding their own VA to the same effect that my letter outlines. Secretary Collins, for each of the VA's three administrations, the VA, the VHA, NCA, what's the total amount of paid salary benefits and terminal leave under the deferred resignation program?
He ain't
And
gonna
what
say.
accounts were used to cover those costs?
Yep. Look, they're trying to figure
I
out.
would just say,
tell the lie.
Representative, the standard personnel accounts were utilized for those folks. So we budget, when you look at the, FTEs that are budgeted for personnel throughout the year, that was the resources that were used. Those people remained on VA rolls through the end of the year or through the termination whenever they left the service. So their traditional salary was utilized as far as our standard personnel budgets.
So was there money that was diverted?
Y'all, I'm going to play the live where they said that VA employees that were not even employed anymore were still getting bonuses and getting paid 10 to 12 months after they were not even VA employees anymore. Okay? I'm going to look for it so y'all can hear it. Okay? They did not even know that VA employees, previous VA employees, were getting bonuses and money. Okay? They were still getting paid after they were no longer employees. I'm going to find it. Don't worry, y'all. I'm going to
From
find it.
other accounts without informing this committee?
I think I just answered that was the standard personnel accounts that would have been used to pay them in any regard. So yeah, the answer is no. There was no diversion. It was their standard personnel accounts that were already programmed for.
Okay, well, we don't have that information because you never provided it. So again, that information is vital for us to not only make these determinations, but to be supportive of this restructuring.
Congressman, can I answer part of your question? Your Western, you mentioned your Western New York facility.
Yes, sir.
Correct. It had, over the past 5 years, it's had a 7% increase in FTE and a -6 encounters. It's actually went backwards. That's just one of the words.
Gentleman, time is expired. Dr. Miller makes you recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I thank Secretary Collins for being here as well. Mr. Secretary, this reorganization is supposed to correct decades of weak oversight and inconsistent leadership across
Correct.
VHA regions.
Yep.
And as we saw, one of the purposes and the momentum for the Mission Act was because of VA deaths and waiting lists that occurred, some up to 9 months for diagnosis and treatment of cancer. So that led to reorganization, if you will, or the Mission Act, implementation of the Mission Act, but yet there was no accountability. So can you give this committee your word that you will avoid promoting any VA employee with a poor performance history
have to
or
get that.
documented oversight failures into senior roles under the new structure?
No.
That is one of the things, and I appreciate the discussion here because you're getting, I know that everybody believes that we're taking this in a big picture. But I'm traveling, this is the multi-headed snake, so to speak. I'm having to address the facility needs. I'm having to address leadership needs. Yes, we're putting into place now to where I actually have a structure that can actually do that can actually get us to a position where we can have, strong leadership and mentoring as we go forward. That is our intent and purpose of this.
The reason I asked that question is under the previous administration, under the Biden administration, very early in my time in Congress, we had a hearing in this room in February of 2024 after a young female whistleblower had contacted the minority party, had not had any action, contacted Chairman Boss, Chairman Boss then requested information from the secretary. After 45 days and a personal phone call, had no information. We had to subpoena to get the information. Now, the whistleblower was reporting on sexual harassment by her senior leadership. This was senior leadership of the Office of Resolution Management, Diversity, and Inclusion, which has
Listen, y'all.
a zero tolerance policy for sexual harassment.
Listen.
And no investigation was taken. And through emails and texts that came out after being subpoenaed, we found that the secretary had in fact arranged for a soft landing for the assistant secretary responsible for ORMID. And in fact, that person was effectively promoted into another job. So was the senior leadership of ODMI, one of them, and then another retired. And in testimony, Secretary McDonough said, there is no question that I failed in this instance. None of those individuals were held accountable, and this poor woman was made to suffer and was disbelieved in her allegations of sexual harassment. So, Mr. Secretary, if this reorganization is truly about accountability, will you commit today that no individual with a substantiated record of mismanagement in prior OIG, GAO, or internal VA reviews will be appointed to lead any offices that have decision-making powers and therefore institute accountability at the VA?
Yeah, my goal is Congresswoman, is to do exactly that, take into account the entire record and going forward as we go forward.
Thank you, sir. Mr.
Stop telling lies, okay? Because just what she just said, you heard what she just said? The woman said that she was harassed, right? She was harassed. She complained about it. And the people who were higher up, they weren't fired. They had the ability to retire and act like nothing didn't happen, okay? And then when they reached out to ask the VA for information, nobody wanted to give them any kind of information. Why? Because I'm going to hide what my buddy do so my buddy can continue to make money while they continue to harass. So she asking that question and he talking about some absolutely, y'all.
Mr. Secretary, in your testimony, you specifically cited OIG reports as a foundation for this reorganization plan. Are you applying the same standard to personnel decisions and reviewing past
No, he's
OIG
not.
findings when selecting
There is
candidates
difference.
to lead the new VISNs, HSA, and operations?
We're taking into account everything that we can to find the best possible people in that regard as we go, forward in this. And I think that's going to be, our guiding light. Are we actually getting the right people in the right places?
Thank you for that. And prior to what I heard earlier with one of our colleagues on the other side of the aisle, I have worked in the VA both as a nurse and a physician. I've applied for jobs at the VA, so both nurse, physician, and military veteran. And let me just say, it took 9 months for that application at the VA, by which point in
I
time
hear her.
I had dozens of offers elsewhere. And so let me just say that 47 days is a monumental achievement, and thank you for that. And thank you for working on hiring at the VA, because it is a morass and we are losing good people at the VA because we can, in the previous administration, could not process applicants or give them job offers rapidly enough. And I know of 2 other physicians who had that same problem.
That is.
You know what pisses me off so bad about this whole situation? They're always comparing everything to the previous administration. Every administration is going to make mistakes. They're going to hiccup or whatever. But this is what pisses me off about him, okay? He tried to make it seem that everything he does is better than the previous administration. Every single thing he does is better than every single administration. And where is the proof that he is actually doing something? Because you can't tell me that he is hiring people in 45 days or 44 days or whatever. It's a crack of you know what, okay? But why do we always have to be on the right and on the left? Because it's a veteran, okay? A veteran shouldn't have to be, oh, this is red and this is blue. We should not have to decide that. But here we go. Every time it's always the previous administration, because it's like a competition of who's doing something better, when in actuality, ain't nobody doing Nathaniel. It's just a whole bunch of word salad.
Something
Thank
we're
you so
working-
much.
I appreciate it. That's what we're working on right now. When I was in uniform just a week ago, we had a lady who got a year later, got a all back, said, hey, we're ready to talk to you now. We're fixing that, 30 days or less.
Gentlemen,
Time expired. Quick piece of housekeeping here. In accordance with the committee rules, I ask unanimous consent that Representative Wasserman Schultz from Florida be permitted to participate in today's committee hearing.
So the committee hearing is going to get down to a whole bunch of absolutely nothing. Then he's going to have to leave because, as you know, he's going to always have to run because he can never answer all the questions that he needs to answer at the time. Okay. Exactly. He's hiring in 2 weeks. Where have we heard that before? Exactly. How you hiring in 2 weeks? Yeah, accountability is never going to happen when it comes to this man. All he cares about is being on X. It's going to the VA facilities and taking pictures and shaking people's hand and making it seem like he's doing it all the most. But the reason why I shared these committee hearings is because I want you guys to see it for yourself. I want you to be able to hear how he's talking. So I don't have to come up here and repeat what he's saying. You can hear it for yourself. And every time that he's called to the carpet, he's always got to go somewhere. He's always running out of time, or he's doing all this other stuff. And then his entourage has to read from the paper of what they're telling them to say. Nobody can answer it integrally. Nobody. But we are around here. We are so focused on disability claims. And meanwhile, let me just tell you, if there's no community care, if there's no EHR system, if there's nothing of those things, no pharmaceuticals, none of that, everything for claims is going to be out of the window. Because if you can't go to the doctor to get the medical evidence, if there's no physicians, there's no nurses, then you don't have no medical evidence if it's not service connected. And then you won't be able to get any documentation for continuity of care. So this all ties in together. So while we're over here bickering and complaining about who's accredited, who's not accredited, who's taking money, who's doing all of this, these people are playing in our faces. These people want us to fight against each other. Have you seen the VSW, the DAV? Have you seen them in the meetings? No. No. Nobody gets a real answer. Nobody, you see, he can't even give a real answer. And he wants to argue with the committee. You can't even get a true answer out of this man. And then you asking for $1 trillion. And I'm sure you guys, let me just pull this up for you. In the video that I did, earlier, where I showed you guys Oracle. This is the EHR contract right here. This is what they want. This is what they're paying these people. This is it. Do you see this number? Do you see? They started off at $50 million, $252.7 billion. Correct. They're all been bought and paid for. NDA signed plus medical monopolizing. We are very much distracted because underlying things happen at night. But we too busy fighting over the wrong things. And meanwhile, if you go on USA Jobs, look at the amount of jobs that's posted up there. You heard him say that they need bonuses for nurses and bonuses for doctors. Have you seen the committee hearings where he asked for the bonuses? I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. This is more than 9 times. More than 9 times. And yet we are over here tussling about stuff that does not matter. Meanwhile, nurses and doctors are underpaid, overworked and underpaid. you can't get into a mental health clinic sometimes for 9 months because they want to pay mediocre pay so people can get community care where they can go to the big hospitals where they're in cahoots with each other to sell our social security numbers to big hospitals where they can make the big bucks. Wake up, veterans, wake up. If you haven't paid attention in the last committee hearing where they said that the number of veterans want to go back to the VA, they don't want community care anymore. And yes, there are some areas where community care is great. It's absolutely great. But veterans no longer want to go to community care locations because 1, they don't get the referrals on time. 2, they don't even know exactly what's happening. 3, they got to pay the bills themselves. And 4, they have to wait till thy kingdom come to even see a doctor. We have to make it to these committee hearings. We have to be the sound. Sitting at home complaining, it's not going to help. You have to write your congressman. You got to keep your foot on their necks. Because the more we band together, the better it would be. Veterans as a whole in greater numbers need to understand everything happening in the VA landscape. We can no longer correct. We can't expect the VFW, the DAV, and all of those to be the advocate for us. We have to sound the alarm. Because guess what? You see what's happening with secondaries? You think it's going to be easier to get a secondary? Okay. You know why? Because he wants 1 trillion, 100 billion, all these different types of monies. So what he's going to do, what the plan is, if you guys are not seeing, if we cut back on the amount of money that we pay veterans, we'll be able to fund and do exactly what we want to do, and our friends make the money. Yes. Is there. The information is there. And as long as I have breath, I'm going to let you guys know what's happening. As long as I have breath, I'm going to sound the alarm. Yes, they're more us than them, and they take it over. Yeah, they want us to stand on the sidelines. And I want the whole YouTube community of veterans to come together. The whole blabbering and bickering amongst each other is minuscule. Bring us together so we can come up with a coalition, some type of something to sound the alarm. We have to be together. We cannot be arguing and tussling and being mean to each other. That's out of the window. They want us to fight. They want us to go against each other so they can get us off focus. And I want women veterans to come to this panel and speak out. If you are a woman veteran, you need to come and talk about the amount of care, OBGYN care that you get, mammograms. I want you guys to see, I want you guys to see exactly what they are doing. These people have a vendetta, okay? They have a vendetta. They have plans. They have plans for us. And let me share my screen with you guys for the last thing so you can see what I'm talking about. And I shared this in a video. These are the 25 things that the VA wanted. And I'm sorry that I'm strolling while I'm on the camera so you guys can, these are the 25 things that the VA wanted to discuss in the last hearing, but they didn't have a chance to do it. So she decided that she was going to put her transcript, which is, what's her name? Margarita, what's her name? Is it Miss Melvin? Is her name Miss Melvin? And I know, guys, I sound like I'm rambling because I got so much information to tell you guys that I only have, a little bit of time. But I want to get to the top of this document so you guys can see where she submitted her testimony, but she didn't have time to read it because it was so much going on in the hearing. Right, Margarita Delvin, correct. That is her name. So let me add this to the stage so you guys can see. Let me move myself. Yep, Margarita Delvin is her name. And this is what she submitted as her evidence. So, guys, I'm sorry that I'm scrolling because I want you guys to see a little bit of something. So this is the Disability Veterans Act, right? This is what the committee proposed. Then this is what the VA has no objection. And I'm going to put this in the comments so you guys could go ahead and read it. But there were so many different things in here, okay, that the VA did not like, which is the Veterans Bill of Rights Act, okay? So the VA would like, they intend to support certain bills, and then the rest of them, they don't care anything about them. So I want you guys to actually go take a look so you can see exactly what is happening. Let me see what you say, Star. The problem is folks don't unite. Too many Thank you for saying that. Why don't legislators and bureaucrats live in Air Force style dormant barracks in DC when they don't get much housing? Yeah, cut their pay and cut all the resources that they get and see if they make a difference. It makes a difference for them. Do that and see how it makes a difference. So what we need to do is we need to band together. And there's so many different committee hearings that you guys have not even heard about. Wait till when you hear how much a contractor was paid. I think it was about $2 million or $1.2 million that the contractor was overpaid, and they have yet to give the money back to the VA. And then the VA employees that they continue to pay after they were terminated or they had no jobs, and the bonuses that they receive. And now they're trying to cut money in all ways, shapes, form, and fashion, and we have to suffer. Yeah. Yeah. Meanwhile, we're over here so focused on disability claims, but VAS, the housing, even homeless veterans, right? All of that is still where's the money? Where's the money going? I heard somebody say, oh, the homeless veterans grants and stuff, the money is not being used. Where's it at? Where's it at? Yep, I'm going to take a look at that too. Yeah, but he said earlier, I'm not privatizing the VA. Absolutely not. It's a huge organization. Why would I do that? Why they don't press charges against who? It's all about getting away, living in the rest. Yeah, because the system is corrupt and they're all friends with each other from head to the bottom. Correct. They want to pay nurses a little bit of money and they want to overwork them at the VA, overcrowded them. It's not fair. But now, if you guys haven't paid attention to this whole hearing, the whole point was to take away VISNs, right? They're not going to be any VISNs anymore. They're going to be leadership teams, and his leadership teams are going to be to the top and they're going to be making the decisions. And you think they're making a little bit of money? No, they're not. Yeah. And if as much as they can break it down, they're going to, if we allow them to. Just like this whole secondary things, guess what you need to do? Get on that website and start making comments. Do you see how they just did this underhand? And we had no idea, just like the medication thing. When we band together and we unite, they have to get certain stuff off the table. So we have to put your boots on and we have to unite together. I'm going to forever bring the information. I am. And if you are sending me emails about not doing what I'm doing, find you something else safe to do because I am going to continue. I'm just going to let you know if you're watching. Yes. So that means when the lady talk about the vision, she's going to be grouped with Florida, Georgia, Alabama. So this one leadership team is going to be in charge of those states. The secondaries, the secondaries are going to be hard to get. Yeah. There's been a change in the M21-1 with the secondaries. I haven't gotten into it because it's just a whole lot. but I'll try to post a video about it. You guys can go to Raiders chat. Raider HQ, he posted a video about it, explaining it, and they will deplete supervisor. So you guys are able to understand exactly what's happened with the secondaries, the wording, how to apply it, what's happening, how you're going about it. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot to take in when it comes to the secondaries. But did you hear that at any committee hearing? No. Did you see that coming? No. It just popped out. Popped out. It just popped out. Yep. Anyway, guys, I have been up here for 2 hours and 34 minutes, and I think I have done enough for today. I did post 2 videos earlier today. I'll try to post some videos later in the week, especially some women health videos that I want to make. Yeah, a lot's happening. Lots happening. A lot is happening. There's some Senate committees that you guys don't even have a clue what's happening. The Senate committee is done at night. It's done when we're sleeping. It's done when we're sleeping. But guess what? I ain't sleeping. I'm not sleeping. I'm taking notes and calling names. That's what I'm doing. And if you feel like going to a VA facility and taking pictures and shaking people's hand is all that it needs, yeah, it's not going to happen. Thank you, She Speaks. I'm going to get some rest, guys. And I'm not sure if I'm going to go live tomorrow. I know last Monday we did do a committee hearing. If I have the strength to do it, I will. I'll post and make a TikTok, a thumbnail about it. And that way you guys will be able to see if I'm going to be live tomorrow. But it's definitely, yeah, we got to go in like, baby kids, we got to do something. We got to do something. So thank you guys for your support. Thank you for your likes, your shares, your love and care. And I hope that you guys have an amazing Sunday night and a great week. And I'm not sure what topics we're going to talk about this week. I have to do some planning with Natural and FF, and we'll get into it. But if there's a specific topic that you want us to talk about, please let me know. You can either put it in the comments, or you can send me an email if there's a specific topics that you would like to. I appreciate your round of applause. I appreciate your love and care. I am passionate about this, right? I'm not only passionate about this, but I want women veterans to step up and sound the alarm. We have been laying down for too long. It is time to get up. If you see the amount of women who get disability compared to the amount of men, it's going to make your mouth drop. And I'm going to do a video about that as well. Women, it's time for you to come to the carpet. You deserve your benefits just as well as men deserve theirs as well. And I'll get into that a little bit later. Have an amazing night. Thank you for joining. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for your likes. Thank you for your gifts. Thank you for your everything that you do to continuously support my channel. It's definitely a pleasure to come here and talk to you about this and be able to vent, and you guys understand, and we work it out together. Okay. I'll definitely see you around soon. Take care.
You're not alone. You got a voice. Stand strong, stay informed.